Hello to all my dear followers. Welcome to the second season of What If Naruto Returned to the Past with His Powers and Memories. Remember, if you want another season, all I ask is your likes and comments, which would make me very happy. Enjoy!
Chapter 7 Arena Fights, Invasion and Victory. Konoha Stadium, Chunin Exam Finals. Naruto was waiting. He had arrived at the stadium earlier. He went to the roof to wait while talking to Kurama. "Kurama, how do you think today's events will turn out?" Naruto said as he observed everything from above. Kurama was thinking until he answered him. "I don't know, this depends on you. You've written everything down, haven't you?" Naruto nodded and Kurama continued speaking. "Well, it all depends on how you act today, what you will do." Naruto thought about everything he could do, but if there was one thing he would really do, he decided what he would do and commented. "First I will humiliate Neji, then I will apply the 5-point seal to Gaara. When that's all done, then it will be a victory, and then I will help Gigi so that he doesn't die, and that will be all dash." Kurama nodded in response. "Okay, then I'll just watch and prevent that Hyuga from cutting off your chakra flow. Don't reveal your Bijou chakra cloak until you fight Gaara. Also, this would be the first step to obtaining Shikaka's chakra. Of course, we must win first." Naruto nodded. Then Kurama watched as everyone arrived and it was about to begin. "Look, it's about to start. You should get ready and good luck, because you'll probably need it." Naruto nodded again, disconnected, and waited to be called. He was ready. He had his new outfit made by Ashura and his new sword, named the Luminous Sword, the one that will illuminate the world of darkness. When he heard his name for the second time, he threw his 3-pronged kunai into the sand. When it hit the ground in an orange flash, he went to the arena. Combat Arena. Naruto appeared in a flash of orange, and everyone stared at him in amazement, mostly because of his new outfit. He wore an open orange kimono with 6 Magatama beads on the collar, 3 on each side. On his back were 9 Magatama beads, and above them was the Rinnegan symbol, but with 6 more. The same pattern was found on his shoulders. Underneath the kimono, he wore a black shirt, black ANBU pants, and black shinobi boots. His headband was black and covered his left eye. For Naruto, it was like being in his 6 paths sage mode, since his clothes were exactly the same except they were yellow, but he didn't mind. He liked it the way it was now. Ashura told him that this was his new outfit and that he had to get used to it. Now that he's arrived, he said, "Sorry for being late. I got lost on the path of life and I want to add something else. My name is Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki, son of the 4th Hokage, Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki, the red-hot habanero of Konoha. Everyone's jaws dropped when they heard what Naruto said. At that moment, an ANBU from the Hokage approached Genma and told him the order. Nodding in response, he said, "All right, the first match of the Chunin Exams Finals. Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki versus Neji Hyuga. Let's begin." Neji adopted his gentle fist stance and Naruto took out his notebook. Seeing that he wasn't interested in the fight, they looked at each other for a moment and Neji decided to break the silence. "Destiny declared me the winner. Maybe last time it caught me off guard, but not this time. Last one dead. Besides, not taking me seriously will make you pay dearly." Naruto ignored him for a few seconds and then looked at him, saying, "Sorry, did you say something?" "I was busy reading about the 1,000 ways to humiliate a Hyuga." Neji couldn't stand it anymore and lunged at him, trying to punch him in the chest to end it quickly. But surprisingly, Naruto dodged and kicked him twice, once in the stomach and once in his right side, pushing him away. While he continued reading his notebook, Neji looked at him angrily and said, "Take this fight seriously or it will end quickly." Naruto didn't say anything and then looked at him again, saying, "Did you say something, Hyuga?" Once again Neji became bitter and lunged at Naruto again, but Naruto just stood there waiting. When Neji was close, Naruto grabbed him with his free hand, deflecting his palm, then kicked him in the back, sending him flying into the wall. In the stands, "Kurenai, what did you teach that boy?" Asuma asked, and Ella just shrugged in response. "What you see, Asuma, is the result of a year of hard work and training." Asuma nodded and Guy commented, "What a youthful spirit. It reminds me of my eternal rival Kakashi." Kurenai nodded, saying, "Yes, it seems I've adopted some of his attitude, but if he gets serious, then things would be different and there would be no chance of Niji winning. Asuma, amazed, he said, "Don't tell me he's just playing with Hyuga dash." She nodded and Asuma just sighed. Shikamaru, who heard, just murmured, "Problematic blonde." The rest of the 12 from the new generation watched. Tenten watched as her teammate was humiliated. Kiba had his mouth open. Choji just ate his chips. Ino just stared. Sakura was amazed by what she saw. Hinata just smiled. Shino just watched and analyzed everything. Then Lee looked determined and said, "Yash, the flames of Naruto-kun's youth burn brightly dash." On the balcony of the Kage, Mei, who had first noticed the boy, looked at Zabusa, who nodded and then commented, "Hokage Dano has a good shinobi there, analytical, attacks when necessary and totally patient. In addition to provoking his opponent by applying a basic strategy, he really has Chunin qualities dash." The Hokage nodded in response. Yes, that's because of his 1 year of hard training. On the sand, Niji kept attacking but didn't land a single blow. On the contrary, he was the one being hit and he didn't know how. He activated his Byakugan to avoid his attacks. When Naruto saw that he had activated his Jujutsu, he thought, finally, he activated his Byakugan, well, time to play. Just thinking about it caused multiple clones to emerge from a cloud of smoke. Preparing for combat, Niji commented with an arrogant smile, "Clones, you fool, with my Byakugan I'll detect you quickly." He looked everywhere for the real Niji but couldn't find him. On the contrary, all the clones had the same amount of chakra. Niji frowned, then decided to look for the original. He attacked the clones, but they just dodged. This went on for 5 minutes. The clones smiled, seeing that Niji couldn't touch them, while Niji couldn't do anything. The clones prepared for their attack. Seeing this, Niji could only do one thing. He concentrated chakra in his palms and began to spin. Kaiten dash. A dome formed, rotating on its own axis. The clones dissipated upon touching the dome. Niji smiled at this, saying, "This is the ultimate defense, the Kaiten, you won't be able to do anything dash." Naruto looked at him bored. Niji tried to attack him again but without success. Already bored, he decided to put an end to this, closed his notebook and got ready to fight. In the stands, Hayashi Hyuga, who watched as Niji used the Kaiten, was perplexed. Hanabi, who was also watching, asked her father, "Tusan, like Niji, can use a technique from the main branch dash." Hayashi answered him. He probably learned it when he saw the rest of the Hyuga, but for him to learn it on his own is amazing, a true prodigy. Kurenai, who saw Naruto close his notebook, said, "Watch closely, now Naruto is going to get serious." On the sand, Naruto drew a 3-pronged kunai, ready to finish him off. Niji, with his Byakugan active, both lunged at each other. Naruto held the 3-pronged kunai in his left hand and a blue sphere in his right. Niji charged his chakra, focusing it in his fingertips, then threw the kunai. Niji simply moved his head to the side. When they were centimeters apart, Niji began, "These are within the scope of my divination, 8 trigrams, 64 pal." I didn't finish because Naruto, through an orange flash, disappeared from his sight, only to see that he was behind him. Grabbing his kunai again, he spun around and with his chakra sphere in hand, he slammed it into Niji's back. Rasengan, that's what was heard from the blonde boy. Niji could only scream in pain. He couldn't avoid the attack, he just lay there on the ground. Gunma watched everything. Seeing that he didn't get up, he was going to declare the winner, but Niji got up again. His whole body hurt, but he didn't give up. He looked at Naruto and said, because you, the last dead one, defy destiny." Naruto just looked at him and replied, "Destiny is a separate thing, Niji. We are the ones who forge our path towards destiny. It is true that everyone has a destiny to follow, but we are the ones who create the path towards that destiny." Niji, perplexed by what he heard, just looked at him. Then he removed his headband and saw the seal of the caged bird. He said, "My fate was sealed when I received this. I am bound to a single path and there is nothing that can be done." Once again, Niji lunged forward. Naruto waited for him. When he was close enough, 3 orange chains appeared from Naruto's palm, attempting to grab Niji. Seeing this, Niji simply countered with the Kaiten to avoid the attack. However, Naruto appeared beneath Niji, striking him in the chin. The Kaiten was nullified, and Niji was thrown into the air by the blow. Then, with an orange flash, Naruto appeared behind him, delivering an axe kick that sent him crashing back to the ground. Naruto descended to Niji's position, held him with his chains, and slowly pulled him closer, saying, "This is for Hinata-chan dash." With one hand he touched Niji's forehead and with the other he began a sequence of hand seals. When he finished he said, "Uzumaki sealing, release from the chain dash." A glow formed across the entire arena. Niji screamed in pain. A few seconds passed and it was over. Naruto released Niji, who fell unconscious. Gunma appeared, examined the Hyuga, touched his neck in search of a pulse. When he found it he nodded, looked at Naruto and smiled at him, then declared the winner. Winner, Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki. There was a moment of silence and then the shouts of the entire audience were heard. Everyone celebrating Naruto's victory. At that moment Naruto could only say, "Thank you, Databeo dash." Then Genma told him he could leave. The doctors took Niji away. After all that, opinions were plentiful. On the Kage balcony. What incredible skill, Hokage Dano. That boy really is the son of the fourth Hokage. Not only because of the demonstration he performed, but he perfectly applied his jutsus without any problem. He is truly a prodigy dash. The Hokage nodded, the Kazekage just stared, lost in thought. Damn it! I must eliminate him, otherwise he will ruin my plans. In the stands, Asuma dropped his cigarette. After everything he had seen, he didn't know what to say. Guy simply said, "Impressive. A shame for Niji. I really wanted him to drop that attitude." On the other hand, Naruto has shown that his flames of youth burn brightly. Hayashi, who saw everything, told Hanabi to wait because he was going to go somewhere. He knew what he had to do, so he went to where Niji was. When Naruto reached the stands, everyone looked at him. First, Shikamaru looked at him and just smiled. Choji greeted him and congratulated him on his fight, as did Shino. Ino, Tenten, and Sakura just watched. Kiba greeted him and congratulated him, and then Lee shouted about the flames of youth. Then Hinata approached him and hugged him, and Naruto returned the hug. Then he said, "As I promised, I didn't hurt him too much." Hinata just laughed, and then they both went to sit down. It's worth mentioning that everyone except Lee and Shino stared at them with wide eyes. The sensei just watched without saying a word, only smiling. Genma called the next participants. Let Sabaku no Gaara and Uchiha Sasuke descend to the fighting arena. Gaara went down via Sunshin of Sand, but Sasuke did not appear. He gave 1 minute for him to appear. On the balcony of the Kage. Too bad for Sasuke, Kakashi, because you had to be late, the Hokage thought while the Kazekage commented. Hokage Dano, let's give him time. Many people came to see the last Uchiha fight, including me. Hiruzen was just thinking about the idea. But the Mizukage said, "Excuse me, but I say that if he can't come on time for a mission, it would be detrimental. His disqualification from the Chunin exams will teach him that he should never be late for a mission, even if everyone came to see him. It doesn't give him the right to privileges." The Kazekage frowned at this, while Hiruzen nodded in response to what he heard. "I agree, let's give him 5 minutes. If he doesn't arrive in 5 minutes, he will be disqualified." The Mizukage nodded. Hiruzen ordered his Umbu to inform Gunma about the wait. Gunma, upon hearing this, nodded and commented, "Uchiha Sasuke will have 5 minutes to arrive. If he does not, he will be disqualified." 5 minutes later, because Uchiha Sasuke did not appear, he is disqualified. The winner by disqualification is Sabaku no Gaara. The booing from the crowd became known, because they didn't see their Uchiha fight. Gaara looked at Naruto thinking, "Now nothing will stop me from having your Uzumaki blood." In a flash of sand he left. Genma called the next participants. Shino Aburame and Sabaku no Kankuro should come down to the arena. Shino appeared in a burst of insects, but Kankuro didn't come down. He just raised his hand saying, "I don't want to fight, I give up." The booing was once again present. Shino sighed and Gunma declared the winner. Winner by surrender, Shino Aburame dash. He just left in a flash of insects. Naruto just watched. He saw the new thing. The first thing was that the Mizukage was there. It was impossible, so he noted that change. Then there was the fact that Sasuke didn't arrive. He also noted that. Then Genma called the next participants. Let Shikamaru Nara and Sabaku no Temari come down to the sand dash. Temari stylishly lowered herself on top of her fan, while Shikamaru just kept talking. "Why do I have to fight against another woman? How troublesome. I'd better give up. Besides, I don't know why I'm here. Naruto appeared behind him, saying, stop being lazy and get down and fight. In a flash of orange, Shikamaru appeared on the sand. He was dizzy from going like that. Then he recovered. He looked at Naruto frowning. Naruto, on the other hand, just gave him his usual foxy smile. Shikamaru just said, troublesome blondie, you'll pay for this. Naruto just sat there, watching the fight that had already started, so he just noted what he did since it was new. 5 minutes passed and the fight ended. It should be said that nothing new happened. On the Kage balcony, typical of a Nara dash, the Hokage thought and the Mizukage shared his opinion. Hokage Dano, the boy is very analytical and shows talent, he's Chunin material, but in my opinion, his attitude would be the downfall of a team. Even so, I say that he still needs a little more to be able to lead a squad, but by gaining experience he can be an excellent shinobi dash. The Hokage nodded, thinking the same as the Mizukage, so he waited for the second round to begin. 10 minutes later, Genma, who was already ready, commented, attention everyone, we're about to begin, but first, those who wish to withdraw may do so now. Temari raised her hand and said, I withdraw, I do not wish to participate. Genma nodded. Then Shino also raised his hand, saying, I'm retiring too. Naruto looked at him perplexed. Genma nodded, looked at the remaining two, as neither showed any signs of leaving, then commented, well, there are only 2 participants left. Go down to the arena. Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki and Sabaku no Gaara dash. Through an orange flash, Naruto appeared, and through a sand sunshin, Gaara appeared. They both looked at each other for a few seconds until Gaara broke the silence. Uzumaki, today mother will have your blood dash. Naruto just looked at him, holding his notebook and writing. Then he looked at Gaara and said, sorry, did you say something? I was jotting down ideas on how to defeat you, dear Gaara. After that, Genma was ready to start the fight, so he said, well, the final of the Chunin exams, Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki against Sabaku no Gaara. Calm. He couldn't finish because a cloud of smoke appeared. When it dissipated, Kakashi appeared along with Sasuke. He was wearing his black outfit like last time. Kakashi looked to both sides and saw Naruto in different clothing and carrying a sword. He decided to ask later, then looked at Genma and said, hi, sorry for being late, but we got lost on the way. Tell me it's not too late yet. Genma simply nodded and replied, now if you're late, Sasuke Uchiha has been disqualified, now please leave, you're in the middle of the final. Sasuke was angry, he looked at Naruto and said, Dobe, this is my fight. Get out of here. Naruto ignored him, continuing to write in his notebook, then looked at the Uchiha and said, oh sorry, did you say something? I was aiming for how to win the fight. Sasuke got even angrier, he was going to hit him but Kakashi stopped him, taking him to the stands so as not to interrupt the fight. In the stands, everyone watched as Kakashi arrived. They just shook their heads at his attitude. They only hoped that Naruto didn't acquire that habit. Then they focused on the sand. On the sand. Ahem. Well, as I was saying, the Chunin exams final, Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki versus Sabaku no Gaara. Let's begin. Gaara started with his sand. Naruto just waited, he wanted to try something new, so he just watched. When the sand arrived, Naruto started, making only 2 hand seals. Wind style. Protective dome dash. A dome of wind surrounded Naruto. The sand that came was repelled. Gaara only continued attacking. Naruto unsheathed his sword, channeled wind chakra, and the sword was surrounded by a powerful wind. Then he said, wind style, cutting blade dash. A wave of wind went towards Gaara. Obviously his sand protected him. Naruto analyzed everything. Then a plan occurred to him. He wouldn't reveal his wood element yet. He wanted to continue testing his new techniques. Gaara counterattacked with sand shuriken that he sent to the blonde boy, who dodged them. He stopped channeling chakra into his sword and, making hand seals, said, water style, water dragon missile dash. A water dragon emerged from the very humidity of the air. It went straight towards Gaara. The sand covered it, but now it was wet. Naruto, without time to lose, threw 3 kunai towards Gaara. But instead the sand protected him. Naruto charged a sphere of chakra. In an orange flash it appeared next to Gaara. The sand was slow to react. With one movement, he slammed it onto his shoulder. Rasengan. Gaara was sent flying towards the wall. But before he crashed, the sand covered the impact. In the stands. What? Another one manages to hurt Gaara. Kami, this can't go on or it will ruin the whole plan. Kankuro said, and Temari nodded. I don't know why father is taking so long to start. What does he have planned? The Jounin watched. Asuma was the most impressed. He had never seen such skill with wind chakra. He looked at Kurenai and asked her, "Can I borrow it? I want to talk to him about his wind techniques. Maybe I can teach him something." Kurenai, who looked at him, only said, "Ask him yourself, I have no problem with it, but the question is whether he wants to." Asuma nodded. Kakashi, who was completely lost, looked at two things: the Rasengan and the Hiration, things he only ever saw in his sensei. He asked, "How much have I missed?" The other Jounin looked at him, just smiled, and Guy was the first to speak. "My eternal rival, you missed a lot. Naruto has demonstrated an excellent ability to use the ninjutsu of the fourth Hokage. He skillfully defeated my student Niji, you should have seen it. For now I recommend you watch Dash." Kakashi nodded and stared. On the sand, Gaara stood up, smiling sadistically as he looked at Naruto. "Yes, Uzumaki, make me feel alive." Gaara was in a psychotic trance. The blonde said nothing. He forgot that he had a second protective layer. Then he thought, time for water tricks dash. Making hand seals, he began his assault. Water style, water bullets dash. Naruto fired compressed water bullets from his mouth. Gaara blocked them using his sand. However, it got wet, making it heavier. Naruto continued with his attack, performing another series of hand seals. He said, "Water style, great waterfall dash." Naruto created a waterfall from the same humid environment, aiming to soak Gaara and disable his sand. Gaara covered himself, but in doing so, he harmed himself. All his sand was soaked, including his armor. Naruto smiled at what he saw. He had achieved his goal. Gaara, on the other hand, couldn't control his sand properly. The blonde took advantage, throwing 3 more kunai. Gaara's sand tried to protect him, but it wasn't enough. They passed by Gaara, and with an orange flash, Naruto appeared behind him, kicked him upwards, and created 2 more clones, who did the same. Gaara was walking up above. The sand was doing its best to move, but because it was wet they couldn't go any faster. Then with an axe kick, he sent Gaara to the ground. He tried to get up slowly because his body hurt. Naruto, using the flying technique, appeared again next to him and with one punch sent him to the wall. In the stands. "What style, it makes me want to train more," Guy said with his usual charismatic smile. The rest just watched. Lee, who was observing the fight, only hoped to train and become stronger. Shikamaru was only analyzing the encounter. Hinata was another case. She just smiled. She thought, "You can do it, Naruto-kun dash." On the sand. "Yes, Uzumaki, prove my existence." Naruto watched with determination what was happening. Gaara enclosed himself in a dome of sand, and above the dome, an eye was visible. Kankuro and Temari, who saw it, paled. They knew it was coming, so they couldn't do anything. Naruto already knew what that meant. To prevent it, he drew his sword, channeled wind chakra, and immediately ran towards Gaara. He created walls with sand spikes, which Naruto cut through with ease. He continued until he reached the dome, and with a movement of his sword, he said, "Wind style, Taha Gale dash." Through a cut, he opened the dome. In turn, he also made a cut on Gaara, who screamed in pain, then felt a warm sensation. "What is this? Feels very warm." Gaara looked at himself and was completely stunned by what he saw. "Blood! My blood!" Ah! The sand moved abnormally, enveloping Gaara, and when it ended, the change was visible. Naruto already knew what was coming next, the beginning of the invasion. He waited and saw nothing, imagining it was a change. Without remedy, he got into a fighting stance. On the Kage balcony, a Jinchuriki Hokage Dano, "I think we should stop the fight." The Hokage was about to answer, but the Kazekage commented, "Don't worry. If anything happens, I'll intervene." The Mizukage looked at him, hesitated but nodded. The Hokage was just thinking, "I know you can, Naruto-kun." On the sand, Naruto, ready to stop Gaara no matter what, devised a plan. Gaara smiled sadistically as he looked at Naruto. In response, Naruto created 5 shadow clones and prepared his attack. Gaara, with his arm semi-transformed, attacked. Dodging Gaara's erratic attacks, Naruto prepared his next attack, readied his 3-pointed kunai, and threw some in various directions, and so it began. "Gaara, you were my friend. So now I will stop you no matter what and save you once again." Naruto thought to himself, charging a Rasengan again, and lunged at Gaara. Gaara prepared to counterattack, moving quickly in an orange flash to dodge the attack. The clones were preparing the trap. Still maintaining the Rasengan, he simply dodged. This went on for a minute until the trap was ready. Naruto pulled Gaara to the center, which was easy. Then a clone positioned itself beside him, and he created another clone right there. Then the other clones were in position, making hand signals and saying, Fuinjutsu, formation of the 4 violet flames dash. A purple cube formed, trapping both Gaara and Naruto. Of course, if another clone did it, it would block their only escape, the Flying Thunder God technique. But Naruto modified the technique so he could escape without problems. With his Rasengan still in his hand, Naruto placed it in front of him. The other clones concentrated on the Rasengan, and blades appeared. A few seconds passed, and then the normal Rasengan transformed into a shuriken. Naruto knew the destructive power of the technique and channeled the smallest amount possible so as not to kill Gaara. On the other hand, Gaara saw the technique and knew they were going to attack him, so he used his sand to cover himself. Naruto, ready to attack, raised his hand with his technique, bent down to launch it and said, Wind style, Rasen Shuriken dash. He launched his attack, and with an orange flash he emerged from the cube. Gaara braced himself for the impact. Then it happened. The explosion was felt throughout the stadium. The cube managed to contain all the power of the Rasen Shuriken, though it was minimal, otherwise it wouldn't have held. When it was all over, Naruto deactivated the barrier, but what he saw left him in shock. Gaara was standing there, his entire body covered in sand, looking like a mini Shikaku. Sighing, he said, You're very tough, I'll have to get serious this time. Gaara, who heard it, smiled sadistically, saying, Come on Uzumaki, show me more, prove my existence dash. Naruto enlisted, he had to be serious this time. In the stands, everyone was standing there with their jaws on the floor. Kakashi was the most amazed. Naruto did what his father couldn't. He completed the Rasengan, and could only manage a smile from under his mask. On the Kage balcony, Hokage Dano, what do you think of this? The Mizukage asked, and the Hokage just smiled in response. Just like Naruto-kun said, he's the son of the 4th Hokage, he worked really hard to reach that level. The Mizukage nodded, but the Kazekage just glared at Naruto with hatred. Damn it, that brat will ruin my plans. I'll let the Sand Jinchuriki kill him. If he has to release the bijou here, let him do it dash. Orochimaru thought to himself. On the sand, this time Gaara used his ranged attacks, creating claws from his sand to attack Naruto, who dodged with the Flying Thunder God technique. Seeing that Gaara wasn't stopping, Naruto tried to counter him using his chains. He created 4 chains from his palm and slowly closed the distance. Gaara continued attacking, but Naruto blocked the attacks with his chains, allowing him to get closer. Upon noticing Naruto approaching, Gaara used a large amount of chakra and created a sand tsunami, sending it directly towards Naruto. Seeing this, Naruto tried to move with his Flying Thunder God technique, but the kunai he had thrown earlier were buried in the sand. With no other options, he resorted to his other trick. The sand covered the entire field and buried Naruto in it. Gaara placed his palm in the sand, saying, He dies, sand burial dash. Everything that was under the sand was crushed because Gaara compressed all the sand. There was silence throughout the stadium. In the stands, Come on Naruto, you won't fall like that dash. Kurenai said, and Asuma added, Kid, you can do it dash. Kakashi commented, Naruto, you can do it, get up. The genin who watched the entire fight were shocked by everything they saw. Then they saw Naruto get buried under the sand. Shino said, Naruto, you have a dream to fulfill, you can't fall. Hinata only commented, Naruto-kun, you can do it. I believe in you, we still have a life ahead of us dash. On the Kage balcony, the Kazekage smiled to himself, hiding his face under the candle. Hiruzen was lost in thought. Naruto-kun, you have a goal to accomplish. Get up dash. The Mizukage just watched to see if anything else was happening. On the sand, Gaara just laughed maniacally until a tremor was felt. From the sand, Naruto came out and he was with a cloak of bijou chakra of red color. His only visible eye was red as blood with the pupil slit. Behind him 3 tails could be seen. He looked at Gaara and dedicated a few words to him. Okay, let's begin with the second round dash. Naruto, on all fours, ran much faster and punched Gaara in the face. But before he could fly away, he grabbed him by the tail, spinning on his own axis, and threw him upwards. Using his three-pronged kunai, he launched him upwards, this time with an orange flash. It was a red one. Naruto appeared above Gaara, using his chakra tails to grab him by the neck and arms. Gaara could only gasp from the damage he was receiving. He tried to attack with his claws, but he was immobilized by the chakra tails. They returned to the ground. Gaara was lying on his back. Naruto, on the other hand, prepared to perform the 5-point seal. However, the sand surrounded Gaara and forced Naruto to retreat. The sand grew larger and larger until it reached the size of the stadium. Then, a giant sand tanuki emerged. Gaara was on top of it, and Naruto knew what it was. Shikaku, the one-tailed beast. It made its presence known. The rest of the people felt the same fear they had felt 13 years ago. In the stands, "We must stop this, it's already gotten out of hand." Guy said, but Kakashi shook his head, saying, "Even if we wanted to, we can't. We can only trust Naruto to emerge victorious from this." The genin who watched had no choice but to ask, "Kakashi-sensei, what is that thing?" Sakura asked, and Kakashi looked at her and answered, "That's a bijou, a tailed beast. For now, that's all I can say. Much is unknown about them, but now Naruto is facing one of those things. All we can do is trust him." All the genin heard it. Sasuke just watched. He was envious, so much power, and he had nothing. He only heard the whispers in his mind. Hinata, who was watching, only prayed for Naruto to triumph. On the Kage balcony, a bijou, Kazekage Dano, stopped this. The Mizukage spoke, but there was no response. The Hokage just stared at the stadium, lost in thought. "Naruto-kun, I know you can dash." 5 minutes later, the Hokage was about to speak, but he was grabbed by the Kazekage himself. "Kazekage Dano, what does this mean?" I asked the Hokage, but a recognizable voice was heard. "Kukuku, it's good to see you again." Sarutobi-sensei. The Hokage, knowing who he was, replied, "Orochimaru, I figured you'd do this. Luckily I'm ready now. Mizukage Dano, my apologies. When I'm finished we'll sign the alliance I'm requesting." Mizukage Mei replied, "Of course, Hokage Dano, but first I'll help you kill a snake." Orochimaru looked at her and smiled, saying, "I didn't expect you to be here, Mizukage-sama. However, this is a matter between student and teacher." The three of them went to a rooftop. Orochimaru's guards took up positions. Zabusa, who was surrounded by Oto ninjas, just smiled under his bandages, looked at Mei, who nodded to him and then enjoyed his work. When the three of them were there, Hiruzen wanted to say something, but a tremor was felt. In the arena, 5 minutes before the start of the invasion, Naruto, who looked, only heard a voice. It was Ashura saying, "Ugh, Shikaku, you know I'd like you to chat, but it's not the time to talk. It's time to use him." Naruto nodded, withdrew his bijou chakra cloak, and simply thought, "Well, this shouldn't go on any longer. I don't know when the invasion will start, so I'll end it now. Just making a manual seal," he said. "Wood element. Wooden dragon." From the ground, a wooden dragon emerged. Those who saw it and knew what it was were simply astonished by what they saw. The technique of the Shodai Hokage was present once again, but what amazed them most was that the one on top of the dragon was Naruto. Then Gaara just laughed, saying, "Now mother will have your blood." Fake death jutsu. Gaara fell asleep and the eyes of the sand tanuki glowed. "Finally free," Shikaku said, then looked at Naruto and also at the wooden dragon. Then he said, "You will be the first to die." Without wasting any time, Naruto went against Shikaku. The wood dragon managed to coil around the bijou, but it wasn't enough. Naruto managed to create another wood dragon, doing the same thing as the first, immobilizing Shikaku. Naruto immediately went towards Gaara, drew his sword, and channeled wind chakra. With a slash, he managed to break the sand that blocked his path. Then, when he approached Gaara, he punched him in the face, waking him up. Gaara, perplexed, just stared at him. Shikaku only roared because his escape was so brief. Then, Naruto's fingers glowed with the kanji for seal. He punched Gaara in the stomach, saying, -5-point stamp. The sand tanuki crumbled, Gaara fell, and Naruto came down with his wooden dragon. When they were on the ground, Naruto approached Gaara and he just said, "Go away, you won't end my existence." Naruto shook his head and simply said, "No, I won't finish you off. You see, I'm like you. I know what it feels like to be mistreated, abandoned, without anyone giving you a hug. At one point, I almost did what you're doing, but thanks to Irika-sensei, Tichiajizen, Haim Nasan, Hiruzen Gigi, my team, my friends, and the person who is very special to me, because of them I saw the light, because of them I am strong since I fight to protect them. Gaara, who heard him, replied, even if you tell me that I have no one, no friends, to fight for or feel that light you speak of. Naruto shook his head again, saying, you're wrong, look dash. He pointed out Kankuro and Temari, who looked worried, but they didn't care about the rules and got down. They stayed next to Gaara, and Naruto continued, your brothers care about you, you can start with them, and I can also be your friend. He said with a smile and extending his hand towards Gaara, who looked at him and said, really? Would you be my friend? Naruto nodded, giving his usual smile and said, of course, and I never take back my words, Databeo dash. Gaara smiled. It was a normal smile. There was no malice or desire to be sadistic. It was a genuine one. He raised his hand and shook it with Naruto saying, thank you, Kankuro and Temari. I'm done here. Let's go home and please excuse me for everything. Temari smiled and said to him, of course Gaara, we'll go home and be a family. Kankuro nodded at what his sister said. At that moment, Genma appeared, having taken cover during the battle. He smiled at Naruto and said, you're great, kid. Then he announced the winner of the Chunin exams, Naruto Namake's Uzumaki. The entire crowd was shouting in victory for Naruto. It could be heard throughout the stadium. Namake's, Namake's, Namake's. Naruto was happy. This was what he had sought as a child, to be recognized. A tear was seen on the blonde boy's face. He raised his hands greeting everyone and thanking them. In the stands, he won dash. Kiba was shouting, Shikamaru just smiled. Shino just watched. But in his mind he was happy for his friend. Hinata was happy, her boyfriend won. For her it was all she wanted to see. Naruto's acceptance with the village. The sensei just smiled at everything they saw. It was happiness, but some feathers fell all over the stadium. The shinobi only dispelled the genjutsu from the Kage's balcony. It exploded. Then several shinobi from Oto and Suna attacked. Those from the Leaf already knew about this. They were prepared. Naruto, who saw the beginning of the invasion, just sighed, preparing himself. He put his hands together, channeled all his chakra, and there was a tremor that was felt throughout Konoha. Then only one phrase was heard from the blonde. Shadow Clone Jutsu. The clouds of smoke appeared not only in the stadium, but also above and outside. There weren't 100 or 200. There were 3,000 clones. They already knew what to do and moved to stop the invasion. With the Kage, Orochimaru, you will fall. This time I will not make the same mistake as years ago dash. Sarutobi removed his robes, revealing his battle attire. The Mizukage, who had also entered the purple cube, stood beside Sarutobi, saying, Hokage Dano, let's finish this quickly. I want to see the winner. Nodding, they both faced Orochimaru. 5 minutes later, Kukuku. Well, I'll give you a gift, Sarutobi-sensei dash. Making some hand gestures, he slammed it on the ground, saying, Summoning Jutsu, Eso Tensei dash. 3 coffins appeared. 2 opened, but the third fell to the floor. From the 2 coffins came out the first 2 Hokage, Hashirama and Tobirama Senju. Orochimaru smiled and said, Now, sensei, enjoy being with them. Sarutobi, perplexed by what he saw, said to the Mizukage, Mizukage Dano, don't take this lightly, use everything you have against them. The Mizukage nodded. They were about to fight, but they saw the barrier fall, and at that moment Naruto appeared alongside the ANBU. He looked at the 2 previous Hokage and just thought, well, at least he revived those 2, it'll be easy. Orochimaru frowned. He thought the Bijou had killed him, but it wasn't so. Naruto drew his sword ready to attack. Sarutobi knew that there are only 2 ways to stop the Edo Tensei: sealing them or having the summoner cancel the jutsu. Hashirama, who saw it, said, Saru, seriously, a young man is going to fight in this battle? Tobirama, who saw it, said, Young man, leave if you don't want to die here. They're controlling us and we can't stop. Naruto shook his head, saying, No, I won't leave. I can currently take you on, so get ready. Sarutobi stood beside Naruto. He knew what he had to do. If he had to give his life, he would. Mei also stood beside Naruto. She saw what the young man was doing and wanted to help him. The ANBU saw when Naruto broke through the barrier. so they quickly followed him before it closed again. They took up a defensive stance to protect their Hokage. Naruto, holding nothing back, drew his chains to immobilize one of them. He went after Hashirama, who dodged. Orochimaru just laughed. Tobirama faced Mei. Sarutobi went after Orochimaru, summoning his partner Enma, who transformed into his adamantine staff, and the fight began. 10 minutes later, everyone was exhausted. Naruto limited himself to using his Rinnegan. He didn't want to attract Orochimaru's attention, so he only used what he knew. Sarutobi, seeing that they weren't getting anywhere, made his decision. Making some signs with his hands, he summoned the Shinigami, who looked at him angrily and said, "What do you want, mortal? You interrupted me during my tea time." Sarutobi made his request. "Shinigami-sama, please seal Tobirama and Hashirama Senju." The Shinigami nodded. He was going to do what he was asked and saw a blonde man with the power of the Sage of the Six Paths. He just smiled and did what he was asked. Then Sarutobi went against Orochimaru. He saw the same Shinigami. Naruto, who saw the Shinigami thanks to his Rinnegan, just stayed there. He could not stop his GG from dying. Sarutobi, who was with Orochimaru, said, "You value jutsus so much. Then I will take them away from you forever." Shinigami-sama, seal Orochimaru's arms dash. The Shinigami nodded. Orochimaru glared at his sensei, took his jutsus, and the Shinigami said something to Sarutobi. "Mortal, I'm in a good mood and I won't take your soul. Having the two Hokage is enough for me. Now, let me tell you this. Don't make the same mistakes with the chosen one of the Sage of Six Paths, or I myself will return and take you with me." Having said this, he left. Orochimaru escaped with his guards. However, the Umbu followed them to try to stop him. Sarutobi was tired. He fell to the ground looking at the sky. Naruto went to him and saw that he was still alive. "Hehe, you're alive, dash." Sarutobi smiled at his substitute grandson, saying, "You won't get rid of me just yet, Naruto-kun. Besides, I still have things to do." Without wasting any time, Naruto began healing his grandpa. Naruto's clones, using an orange flash, eliminated all the Oto and Suna ninja. Zabuza was in a park, massacring every Oto and Suna ninja he saw. Kakashi assigned the other genin to help the academy, the hospital, and escort civilians to the bunkers. 10 minutes passed, and the enemy ninjas retreated. Konoha won once again. For Naruto, it didn't turn out as he expected, but at least he achieved what he wanted: to save Gaara and his grandpa. 1 week later, Naruto's mental space. "Hey Naruto, you didn't take Shikaku's chakra dash." Naruto shook his head and said, "No, I won't do it for now. I'll just trust Ashura-san. He'll help me with my Six Paths power, so I'll just wait." Kurama nodded, and Ashura, who was there, said to him, "Good choice, Naruto. I'll help you with everything, and then I'll give you my father's power. When I do, we'll train so you can master it." Naruto nodded and came out of his mental landscape. It was night and he went to rest. He knew that tomorrow was the promotion ceremony and his GG told him to prepare, since it also had something to do with the council, so he went to sleep. To be continued. Chapter 8. Promotions, the council, and showcasing a new invention. Naruto woke up at home, got up, went to wash up, and then created 2 clones. He sent them to cook breakfast, bacon with egg and accompanied by his toast along with his glass of milk. It was his routine life. Of course, today was a special day, the promotion ceremony, so he recapped everything. "Okay, I'm level 9 in Fuinjutsu. I know the wood element. I have all 5 affinities. I possess a Dojutsu, the Rinnegan. I know my father's Jutsu, the Hiraishin and the Rasengan. I also have the Uzumaki clan's adamantine chains. I know wind jutsu, some water and earth jutsu. I'm proficient in Kenjutsu. I have a new outfit. I've mastered the 6 paths of the Rinnegan. I have the wolf contract and I've mastered their Senjutsu. I have a new partner named Genta, a new master, Ashura Otsutsuki." Kurama is calm. What more could I ask for? Naruto thought to himself. Then going to his room, he got dressed. Ashura made him 10 outfits. He was going to make one for Genta too, but he needed to wait until he grew up, since Ashura told him that doing it now would be a waste. Ashura understood and just waited. He felt good for now, using the headband and the scarf with 9 Magatama and the Rinnegan symbol, a gift from Ashura. Naruto created his clones, leaving them doing the same as always. They made a lot of progress in the inventory, 55%, something but acceptable. The Fuinjutsu group was starting level 10. So in a few years he would be a level 15 master. He took his sword, got everything ready and went to the ceremony. He had time, so he advanced slowly. As he walked through the streets, the villagers greeted him. Some vendors gave him apples or other fruit. For him all this was new, only he returned the greetings to everyone who greeted him and thanked those who offered him a fruit. I can get used to this, he thought to himself. Hokage Tower, Promotions Office. Sarutobi was there in the room where future Chunin were promoted. The two advisors, Hamura and Koharu, were also present. They decided to side with Sarutobi. It wasn't in their best interest to oppose him, especially since the Jinchuriki was very loyal to him and, in turn, to the village. He demonstrated this by defending everyone and creating many clones to help on all fronts, and now that everyone had faith in him, to oppose him was literally to defy the entire village. Everyone was there: the Jounin commander Shikaka Nara, the heads of the IT department, the sensei of Team 7, 8, 9, and 10. In the center was the current Hokage, and on the sides, his advisors. They were waiting for two people, Shikamaru Nara and Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki, the two chosen for promotion. The first to arrive was Naruto wearing his new outfit. Those who saw it smiled. Although it was still striking, it was a new set of clothes with a nice design. After a few seconds, Shikamaru arrived with his usual bored face. When the two were there, the Hokage started first with the new Chunin. Genin Nara Shikamaru, for demonstrating the use of tactics and intelligence in battle. Although you lost because you surrendered, it doesn't mean we didn't examine your attributes. That's why you were selected to be promoted to Chunin. However, keep in mind that upon promotion you can lead a squad. So we expect you to take your mission seriously. That's all. Pick up your new vest. Shikamaru bowed, approached and picked up his new Chunin vest, then looked at Naruto, who smiled at him. The blonde smiled back. Then the Hokage began with Naruto. Genin Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, for your excellent demonstration shown in the arena, tactics displayed, strategies used in the middle of a fight, the calm you showed and the patience to wait to execute a plan. Also the jutsus well executed at the right time. It should be said that also your participation during the invasion. I, the Hokage, along with the Jounin commander Shikaka Nara and the other judges, name you Jounin of Konoha. Wear your Jounin vest with pride. You have earned it. Naruto bowed and proudly received his vest. Everyone applauded, and a somewhat embarrassed Naruto simply said, "Thank you, Databeo." Sarutobi just smiled. Then everyone withdrew except for the advisors, the Hokage, the Jounin commander, and Naruto. Sarutobi was the first to speak. Okay, we have a council meeting now, we need to go. Those present nodded and went to the council chamber. Boardroom. Naruto, who was standing next to his grandfather Jiraiya, the other clan leaders were present, as well as the civil council and a bandaged man who had an arrogant smile on his face. Naruto knew who he was. Danzo, the Black Stain of Konoha. He decided to observe him, and if he tried to do anything he would use his cards. Sarutobi looked at Naruto saying, "Naruto-kun, you can take a seat, you are now part of this council." Naruto nodded and went to where the Uzumaki logo was. The rest smiled, even the civilian council. Danzo was the only one who just watched. Then the meeting began. Okay, we'll start the meeting. Now, as you can see, the repairs have been faster thanks to someone who collaborated with many clones and also with their wood element. Everyone except Danzo nodded and the Hokage continued speaking. Now I will make an announcement. I have decided to leave the position of Hokage. I already have a successor. At the beginning I told Jiraiya that he should be the 5th Hokage, but he gave me a better option, the last Senju Tsunade, the medical Sannin. Danzo, seeing the opportunity, spoke for the first time. Hiruzen, we cannot accept that. She hasn't been to Konoha in years. It's recommended that it be someone who has always been in the village. Is there anyone here who wants to take the position of Hokage? There were murmurs, but no one answered. Danzo smiled as it was his opportunity, but Naruto was the one who spoke. My dream always was and still is to be the Hokage, but even I know I'm still young. Even so, I trust Hokage-sama's decision to name Tsunade Senju as his successor, and I know everyone agrees. One by one they raised their hands. Both the clan leaders and the civil council supported this. Danzo gripped his staff. His improvised plan had failed. Sarutobi just smiled. His substitute grandson had beaten Danzo at his own game. Even so, he did not lower his guard. He knew that the old Warhawk was always looking for something, and he was not wrong when he heard his next words. Namikaze-san, please take into account what he says. Furthermore, you should be aware of your current position. You are only here to serve Konoha. Also, considering your lineage, I propose that the CRA law be applied to you. You are already a Jounin, so this law can be applied to you. Danzo smiled. knowing they couldn't deny this, but Naruto decided to play his cards. Before he could speak, Jiraiya slammed his fist on the table, saying, "Danzo, how dare you speak to Naruto like that? He is a person, not a tool to be used, and I disagree with what you propose." Danzo looked at him and replied, "Jiraiya, this is done because the second Hokage established this law and it applies to everyone who is a shinobi in Konoha, and he is also a Jinchuriki. He must serve his village as he is." Jiraiya was going to protest, but Naruto decided to intervene, saying, "I refuse, I will not enter into that law." Danzo looked at him with his one visible eye, saying, "You can't refuse. Kid, you're bound by the law of this village, so your vote is now invalid." Naruto knew what Danzo was like. He was always looking for something. It wouldn't surprise him if Sasuke killed him first. He wanted to reveal what he was hiding, but he had to hold back since that was Sasuke's duty. After studying law and politics, he remembered the law of the Shodai Hokage with the Uzumaki, so he resorted to that first. Speaking of laws, the Shodai Hokage signed an agreement with the leader of Uzushiogakure that if there was an Uzumaki left in Konoha, they would not force him to enter into laws that he did not want of his own free will. That was the agreement before he married Mito Uzumaki. Danzo knew that law. He thought the Jinchuriki didn't know that, so he couldn't force him, and Naruto continued talking. "Furthermore, if they force me, the Fire Daimyo has a signed document from my father stating that they cannot force me to do anything I don't want to do. If they do, Konoha loses." Danzo said nothing more, saying anything now would only ruin everything he planned. The other leaders just looked at him with amusement. He faced the mummy with a staff and beat him at his own game. Sarutobi just thought, "Someday you will be a great Hokage, Naruto-kun." Then he decided to speak. "Does anyone have anything else to say?" There was silence, so he interpreted it as a no. "Well, as I was saying, I've decided to name Tsunade Senju as my new successor. Jiraiya offered to bring her here. I'll assign you an escort to accompany you." Jiraiya commented, "Thank you, sensei, but I only want one person, of course, if they agree to accompany me." I looked at Naruto and, seeing Jiraiya's intentions, he responded quickly, "I accept. We'll leave tomorrow if you like." Jiraiya smiled at him, pleased to see his godson defend himself against the old war hawk. Then he answered him, "Of course, Dash." Sarutobi nodded and said, "Okay, tomorrow you'll go look for Tsunade. I'll give you a month to find her without any problems." Now I'm ending the meeting. Everyone was leaving, but Naruto headed towards Hayashi. It's time to confront him, he thought to himself. When he was near him, he said, "Hayashi-san, I would like to speak with you privately." The Hyuga clan leader was curious and asked, "Namikaze-san, no problem. Meet me at my compound in an hour." Naruto nodded and said, "Of course, Hayashi-san." Then Hayashi left in a leaf sunshin and Naruto left in an orange flash. 1 hour later, Hyuga complex. Naruto advanced through the Hyuga complex, reached the main house, knocked on the door and a guard came out. "Young Namikaze, Hayashi-sama awaits you." Naruto nodded and followed the guard. When he saw the surroundings, it was a nice place. The gardens were well cared for and the water fountain was very pretty. He made a mental note to buy one for his house. As he walked on, he saw Hinata and her sister Hanabi. She realized who he was and went towards him. "Naruto-kun dash. That's what I heard when I jumped on top of him, hugging him." Naruto returned the hug. "Hinata-chan, how are you?" Hinata wanted to kiss him, but not at her house. She didn't want to cause any trouble, so she held back and answered him, "I'm fine. I was training with my sister. Tell me, did you decide to talk to my father?" Naruto gave her his foxy grin and said, "Of course, I will get his blessing today." The guard coughed to attract attention. "Ahem. Namikaze-san, please follow me. Hayashi-sama is waiting dash." Naruto nodded, saying, "Sorry. Let's continue, Hinata-chan, see you later." Hinata said goodbye to him and he continued on his way. Hayashi was strict. His eldest daughter showed no signs of improvement. He didn't know what to do anymore. The clan elders wanted to demote her to the branch family and then mark her with the caged bird seal. Of course, he wasn't going to allow it. While he was thinking, an informant told him that his daughter was dating the Jinchuriki. Hayashi frowned at that. He wasn't going to allow it. But he thought about it again and let it go. He wanted to see how far it would go and whether his daughter would improve or be harmed. Time passed and he saw the improvements. His daughter was more confident and not the shy girl she had been before. Her soft fist improved in a different way, but it did. He just smiled. His decision to leave things as they were had worked, so he just waited. Then he learned that his team was the best of this generation. He didn't show anything outwardly, but inside he was happy. Then he learned about their missions, all successful thanks to teamwork. From there, the Chunin exams. Although his daughter didn't reach the finals, he was still surprised when the blonde boy defended her and healed her in front of everyone. He humiliated Niji at that moment, and he was truly surprised by that. Then in the final, he showed great talent, humiliating Niji again. He used his skills and overcame the Kaiten defense. Hayashi was somewhat annoyed at first, but it passed when he heard that he did everything for his daughter. He just smiled and went to see Niji. When he arrived at the medical wing of the arena, he entered Niji's room, stood in front of him, and did what he had to do: apologize. He knelt down and asked for forgiveness for everything. Then he handed him his father's letter and left. After that, the invasion occurred. He learned that the blonde boy, besides having the Uzumaki chains, also had the lineage of the Shodai Hokage. Thus, he defeated the one-tailed Biju, participated in the defense against the invasion, and helped the Hokage against Orochimaru. Then he also learned that he was now a newly promoted Jounin thanks to all his feats shown. He faced Danzo and beat him in politics, and now he is in front of him, which was what he wanted. He was going to find out when he talked to him. Namikaze-san, it's a pleasure to have you here. Tell me what you wish to talk to me about. Naruto answered without hesitation. Hayashi-san, I wish to have your approval to go out with your daughter Hinata, he commented, bowing his head. Hayashi had expected that. He wondered when he would ask him, then he answered. Namikaze-san, since when are you dating my daughter? Be honest with me. Naruto paled at the question. He didn't know how to answer, but if he wanted everything to go well, he had to tell her. Gathering his courage, he replied, since we formed Team 8, Hayashi-san dash. Hayashi nodded, wanting to see if he was sincere or not. Seeing that he hadn't lied, he smiled and said, very well, I'll let you go out with my daughter, but let me tell you this, if you hurt her, it will be the last thing you do, is that clear? Naruto nodded. He would never do that to her, so he commented, of course, Hayashi-san, it's a promise and I never break my promises. Databeo dash. Hayashi nodded with a smile, then added, dash one more thing, I don't want grandchildren until they're at least 16, so be careful. Naruto blushed. He hadn't expected them to say that, and at the same time, he remembered what Mako had told him. Shaking his head, he said, don't worry, Hayashi-san. I respect her and would never force her to do anything she didn't want to do. Hayashi nodded, satisfied with the answer, then commented, I'll make arrangements with the clan elders, so you won't have any problems. Besides, with the demonstration you gave, they'll be happy that you're going out with my daughter. That's all, you can go. Naruto stood up and bowed his head, saying, thank you, Hayashi-san. I won't let you down for supporting this. Hayashi nodded and Naruto went out to find Hinata to tell her that everything went well. From another side, a certain man watched with his magic ball. He heard everything. He just smiled, thinking, I made the right decision to show everything in the Chunin exams. Now it's all up to you, Naruto-kun dash. Sarutobi just smiled as he thought about what the children of his substitute grandson would be like. Day after, Naruto was ready to go find Tsunade Senju. He knew she would come soon. After the encounter with Akatsuki and Orochimaru's beast, he left with Genta towards the gates of Konoha. It was his first mission as a Jounin, although he didn't put on his vest, since knowing what would happen, he didn't want to attract attention yet. Jiraiya was there, waiting for him, and ironically, Hinata was too. She approached him, gave him a small basket with food, and said, Naruto-kun, good luck on your mission. Naruto gave her his foxy grin, hugged her, and said, thank you, Hinata-chan, when I get back we'll go out to eat. Hinata nodded. Naruto grabbed the basket and gave her a light kiss, which she returned. Jiraiya just took out his notebook and wrote everything down. Oh yes, pure gold. I'll get rich off this boy, he thought to himself. Then they started to leave to go in search of Tsunade. But before that, two people with a black robe and red clouds appeared, observing the village. Doesn't it make you nostalgic to see your village again? Come on, we have things to do. You're so boring, oh well, never mind. Naruto and Jiraiya were making rapid progress. They had a month, so they could only use the time to talk. The blonde wanted to see what Jiraiya could do to earn his forgiveness, so he put him to the test. The scenery is beautiful, isn't it, you pervert? Jiraiya, who heard it, said, Don't call me that, Gaki. I'm not a pervert. I'm a super pervert. Naruto sighed. He knew what Jiraiya was like, so he said, Yeah, whatever you say. As they walked, they decided to stop in a meadow to rest for a moment. Jiraiya wanted to see if he could teach the boy something, so he decided to look around. Hey Gaki, how's your arsenal of jutsus coming along? Naruto realized what she wanted to do, so he went along with it. It's going well. I know some water and earth jutsus, mostly defensive, but I have more talent in wind jutsus. Jiraiya nodded and said, Would you like to learn a cool earth jutsu? It's my own invention. Naruto, with a curious look on his face, commented, Let's see, show it. Jiraiya smiled, made some hand gestures, and said, Earth style. Underworld swamp dash. A huge area was filled with mud. Naruto tried stepping onto the mud and quickly sank half his body in. Whoa. Hey, get me out of here. I'm sinking deeper dash. Jiraiya, who looked at him, said, Gaki was a demonstration, not a mud bath you could just jump into. Naruto nodded in response. Okay, I understand. Now get me out of here. Jiraiya canceled the jutsu and Naruto sighed. Then said, Okay, you win. How do you do that? Jiraiya smiled, managing to get the boy's attention, explained the hand signs and the purpose of the jutsu. Naruto nodded, mentally created 10 shadow clones and gave the order. They know what to do. The clones nodded and went to practice. Jiraiya, who saw this, said, So you know the trick with shadow clones dash. Naruto smiled as always, replying, Sure, how do you think I learned so much in 1 year? Jiraiya nodded and said, I see, I think we can rest here, let's put up a tent. Naruto shook his head but smiled slyly, saying, I have something better, look dash. Naruto, making a hand seal, said, Wooden element. For pillar house dash. A small house appeared, ideal for them. Jiraiya smiled in amazement at Naruto, saying, Amazing Gaki. Let's go in and eat something. Naruto nodded and then commented, I'll show you some of my projects, but inside dash. Jiraiya nodded and they both went inside. Once inside, Naruto took out 2 scrolls, placed them on the table, and opened them. They had the same writing, but there was one kanji with a different description. Naruto began to explain, I present to you my project, a communicator. Look, these kanji are what make the difference. Below we write the kanji of the other scroll we want to know. In this case I will write here dash. Naruto took out a paintbrush that Jiraiya recognized and began writing the same kanji on a scroll. After he finished, he continued explaining. Now this will create a link with the other scroll. Here, in the large box, you place the message you wish to send. When you finish writing, you only need to channel chakra here, in this box with the even numbers, and the written message will be sent to the other scroll. I'll give you an example. Naruto started writing whatever, then channeled chakra into the box and the message on the scroll disappeared and appeared on the other scroll. Jiraiya looked at all of this in amazement, then commented, How is this possible? How did you create this dash? Naruto smiled his characteristic smile and said, Oh, it's easy. While I was studying the Flying Thunder God technique, it occurred to me, if this can teleport someone, why not words on scrolls? Look, up here the odd number is in charge of creating the sender or receiver connection. The one down here where the chakra is channeled is with an even number. Then there's where the message is written or arrives. Here the even number receives the channel chakra and the odd number will react to send the message. To receive it, the odd number receives the chakra and the even number is in charge of stabilizing it, and then the message is displayed. It's that simple. Jiraiya just asked, Since you combined odd and even numbers, it's impossible. Naruto shook his brush, saying, Impossible for those without imagination and possible for those with a sharp mind like me. Databeo dash. Jiraiya smiled at the boy's wit, then commented, Gaki, you know you have something here that solves many things, including the lack of communication on long missions or when requesting reinforcements, reports, information, or other things. If you show it to the Hokage, there is no doubt that he will approve it dash. Naruto nodded. His plan to attract her attention had worked, then commented, I know, but I wanted to show it to you to get your opinion. You're also a Fuinjutsu master, so it might be interesting to look at it. Jiraiya nodded, grabbed the scroll and began to examine it, recognizing some patterns, until he finished. Smiling, he looked at Naruto saying, "You're impressive, Gaki. It's well done. Tell me how far it is dash." Naruto replied, "The whole country is on fire, although I'm looking into how to extend the signal. I think some antennas could solve it." Jiraiya nodded. Then Naruto continued speaking. "Keep that one. When we return to Konoha, I'll create more of those." Jiraiya nodded. Then they ate something, and as it was getting dark they went to rest. They would continue tomorrow. Naruto dispelled the clones he had just created and from there received the information. Then he went to sleep. To be continued. Chapter 9. Akatsuki, the 3 Sannin, and the new Hokage. Day after, Naruto woke up. It was a beautiful day since he had a great time yesterday. He decided that he would show Jiraiya his new wind jutsu that he had been practicing. Jiraiya was already awake, and they both got ready. Then Naruto dispelled the wooden house jutsu and they continued their journey. While they were walking, Naruto said something to Jiraiya. "I forgot to explain something to you yesterday. The communicator overheats when it receives a message, alerting you that a message has arrived. Now, when you pick it up, it will stop getting hot and you can open it. I also plan to add a security feature to the parchment so that if someone steals it, it will self-destruct and send an automatic message to the last person who communicated. What do you think?" Jiraiya thought for a moment, then gave his answer. "That sounds great to me. I imagine you plan to work on it when we return to Konoha." Naruto nodded, saying, "That's right, but we'll add security to your parchment so you won't have to worry if you lose it, although if that happens it would be a shame for you." Smiling as always, I commented on that. Jiraiya just laughed at what Naruto said, so he said, "Come on, Gaki. Do you think I'd lose something like that?" Naruto looked at him and replied, "Probably yes." They both laughed as they continued on their way. They arrived at a shop and Jiraiya told her, "Wait here. I'll buy something." Naruto thought this was cliché. Then Jiraiya came out and told him to follow him. They went under a tree, sat down, and Jiraiya began to talk. "You're very much like your father, your intelligence, skill, and dexterity, but your strength and character you inherited from your mother." Naruto, somewhat surprised by this, replied, Thank you. I don't really talk about them much, but what I do know is that they loved me, and I will make them proud of me, and for that I will fulfill my dream of becoming Hokage. Databeo dash. Naruto gave his usual smile and Jiraiya smiled back. "Of course, I have faith that you will achieve it and I hope to still be here to see it." I took an ice cream with 2 sticks out of the bag, broke it in 2 and gave one to Naruto. He remembered this. Flashback. 14-year-old Naruto and Jiraiya were on their training journey. A year had passed since they left Konoha. At this moment, they were sitting under a tree, using its shade to cool off in the wind. Then Jiraiya began to speak. "Naruto, I have a dream." Naruto, who was paying attention, asked him, "A dream that I dream Erosenin dash." Jiraiya answered him, "I dream that peace will one day come, that this cycle of hatred will one day end, that we will all understand each other, and thus the wars will stop, although I haven't yet found the answer to that." Naruto answered him, "That's a good dream, Erosenin, just like mine to be Hokage." Jiraiya smiled at him, saying, "Of course, I hope to be there to see it, and if at some point I'm no longer here." Jiraiya broke the ice cream in 2 with 2 sticks and gave one to Naruto. "I will entrust my dream to you." Naruto received the ice cream, saying, "Thank you, Erosenin dash." Naruto gave his usual smile and Jiraiya smiled back, and they both ate their ice cream. End of flashback. Naruto shed a tear as he remembered that. Jiraiya noticed that Naruto was sad, so he asked, "Are you okay, Gaki?" Naruto wiped away his tear, saying, "I'm fine. I just got some dust in my eye." Jiraiya nodded and they both ate the ice cream. Naruto thinking as he ate, "Erosenin, I'll make sure you're there and don't die. I want you to see me when I'm Hokage. That's my promise." Naruto and Jiraiya continued on their way, and on their journey they arrived at a village to take a break. Jiraiya saw Naruto's wallet and said to him, "Hey kid, you shouldn't bring too much money. Look, pass it to me and I'll give you some bills to spend." Naruto, who was writing things down in his notebook, looked at him and said, you said something perverted." A drop of sweat appeared on Jiraiya's face as he remembered a certain silver-haired man. Then he said, "Gaki, come on, you know what I mean dash." Naruto took out his frog wallet, gave it to him, and Jiraiya gave him some bills. Then he told him to get a room for them to spend the night. Naruto nodded, and Jiraiya left with a woman who took him away. He just thought, Some things never change. Then he went to the hotel he'd been to last time. It was time to face Akatsuki. Naruto was preparing something. He knew he wasn't a match for them yet. It was just a matter of buying time. He wasn't going to reveal his abilities, only the bare minimum to feign weakness. Itachi was the only one he could trust, but Kisame. He was another story. Naruto knew that he was very loyal to Akatsuki. If Itachi lied, Kisame could tell Obito. That's why, if they were going to fight, it would be on their rules and not in their favor. There was only one way to talk to Itachi, so it was to force him to use it. Two people were walking, wearing straw hats and black robes with red clouds. They advanced down a corridor, stopped at a door, and simply knocked. Naruto was there getting ready, talking to Kurama and Ashura. Naruto, I say you kill them and end this. Naruto shook his head, saying, no, it would attract too much attention, besides I have a plan. Ashura commented, okay, I say the best thing would be to escape and set a trap in a certain place. Naruto nodded, saying, yes, that would be the best option, but let's see if they give me time to get everything ready. A knock on the door woke him up, and Naruto knew who they were. Okay, it's time, he thought to himself. When he went to the door, he opened it and there they were, Itachi Uchiha, his scarlet eyes with 3 tomo. He just got ready to execute his improvised plan. Naruto-kun, come with us dash. Naruto thought about it for a few seconds before answering. No thanks, I was taught not to go with strangers. Then he closed the door in their faces. Itachi just stared and Kisame said, he didn't do it, right? Itachi replied, yes, Kisame did it. Kisame, using his enormous sword, cut the door in 2. Itachi was the first to enter and saw that there was no one there and the window was open. Itachi sighed, knowing what had happened, then left, saying, no, she's not here. She escaped through the window. Kisame smiled, showing his shark teeth, and said, the brat is clever. Just as they were about to go after him, another person appeared. Itachi. They both turned around and Kisame, seeing someone who looked like Itachi, said, Itachi, he looks just like you? Who is that? Itachi sighed and said, he's my little brother Sasuke. Kisame, go for the objective. I'll take care of this family matter. Kisame smiled and went out to look for him. Suffice it to say, Itachi gave Sasuke a beating. Forest. Naruto was in the forest. He used the communicator to talk to Jiraiya. He waited for the answer and it arrived. He indicated that he would wait there, that he was on his way. He sighed with relief since he didn't know if he would be able to hold out. The first to arrive was Kisame. He looked all around but didn't see Itachi. Naruto, pretending not to notice, asked, what do you want from me, clowns? And where's the other one who was with you? Kisame smiled and said to him, don't worry, he's at a family gathering. He'll be back soon. For now I'll have fun with you. Naruto cursed his luck, especially Sasuke, who had ruined his plan. Now he would have to deal with the blue one with no other option. He sighed and got ready. Kisame smiled at the sight of Naruto ready to fight and said, the brat wants to fight, well let's see how long you last. Naruto readied regular kunai. He wouldn't use the flying thunder god technique against this guy, so he limited himself using his kunai strategies to throw them. Kisame just watched, amused. Then kunai landed in a blind spot. Kisame was surprised by this, but managed to dodge them in time. Naruto smiled and decided to attack with a Rasengan, but Kisame blocked it with his sword. The impact occurred, but nothing happened. There was no explosion or any wound. Kisame just smiled. Naruto forgot about the damn chakra-devouring sword. Using jutsu would be useless, the sword would absorb him. While he was thinking, the other one arrived. Itachi appeared and stood next to Kisame. Naruto smiled at the arrival of the person he wanted. Then he commented, I'll say it one more time. Come with us. Naruto replied, because of the insistence dash. Itachi replied, you'll know when you come with us when you decide. Naruto thought about it and I answered, no, I won't go with strangers. Itachi just sighed, saying, as you wish, Kisame. I'll take care of it. Cover for me. I'll do this quickly. Kisame nodded. Itachi closed his left eye and a tear of blood could be seen falling. So then he opened it saying, Tsukuyami. Naruto was tied to a cross-shaped post, unable to free himself. Then Itachi appeared. Naruto-kun, I didn't want it to come to this. Not even you can withstand the Tsukuyami. Not even Kakashi-sen could. Now, for the next 72 hours you will be tortured. In the real world, it's only 3 seconds. Now prepare yourself. Using the swords, he pierced Naruto's body. He just endured the pain, he had to do it. After a while, he decided to speak. Itachi, I know the truth about the Uchiha massacre. You did it to prevent a coup and defend Konoha. Itachi stopped when he heard that, then asked him, how do you know that, Naruto-kun? Naruto smiled and said, it was easy for me to sneak in and get information. Naruto lied. He saw that he had caught their attention and continued talking. You see, your dear brother is currently marked by Orochimaru's cursed seal. If you find him now, you can enter his mind and see for yourself. Itachi was astonished by what he said and replied, Orochimaru, are you sure that happened to him? How and when? Naruto answered, during the Chunin exams, he attacked in the second phase and took the opportunity to place that seal on him. Itachi nodded and Naruto continued speaking. Look, I don't know why they've come looking for me, most likely they want the Kyuubi. What I do know is that Sarutobi, he trusts you and so do I, that's why he gave you that information. Now we can reach an agreement to help each other, and that way you can give me information and I can help you with your health problem. I can smell that you take medication, don't ask how, but I'll tell you later in a more comfortable situation. Itachi nodded again and Naruto continued speaking. In 4 days come alone to Tanzakagai, the city of gambling and entertainment. When you are close I will sense you since I have your chakra scent. We will talk there dash. Itachi nodded for the 3rd time and commented. Alright, then it'll be like this, so that my partner believes I've knocked you unconscious I'll have to do this dash. Itachi stabbed Naruto with his sword straight through his heart, then commented. Don't worry, you'll just be exhausted and sleep for a day. You'll have time to get to Tanzakagai dash. Naruto nodded, wincing from the stab wound. Then Itachi dispelled the Tsukuyomi. In the real world, Naruto gasped, clutching his chest over his heart. Felt so real. He stared at them for a few seconds and sensed Erosenen's chakra very close. He just smiled and fell unconscious. Kisame smiled as he watched the brat fall, then looked at Itachi and said, Itachi, you didn't kill him, no dash. Itachi shook his head and Kisame nodded. Then he approached and said, well, I'll cut off his legs so he can't escape again. Raising his sword, he was about to cut him, but a battle toad appeared, blocking Kisame's cut. Jiraiya appeared, placing himself next to Naruto. Kisame Hashigaki and Itachi Uchiha, S-rank Nuke will not touch Naruto dash. Itachi looked at him and said, Kisame, we're leaving, we can't face a Sannin. Kisame nodded and they disappeared in a puff of smoke. Jiraiya sighed, picked up the unconscious Naruto and took him to the hotel. Itachi returned to where he had left Sasuke, but there was no one there. He sighed, thinking, they must have taken him to Konoha. Well, I just need to lose Kisame to go to Tanzakagai dash. 1 day later, Naruto was waking up. He looked around and saw Jiraiya sitting down. Then he decided to speak. What happened dash? He asked innocently, and Jiraiya answered him. Naruto, are you alright? Yesterday you faced 2 S-rank Nuke and ended up unconscious. Naruto answered, I remember now, well at least I came out unscathed. Jiraiya nodded, saying, okay. Get ready Naruto, we're moving forward. In 5 days there will be a festival in Tanzakagai and we'll find Tsunade there. Naruto nodded, got ready, and once he had his equipment, he met Jiraiya outside the hotel and so they continued their journey. Naruto didn't show it, but he internally enjoyed Jiraiya's company, even without his previous contract. He still enjoyed traveling with him, and as they walked, Naruto decided to speak. Erosenin, do you want to see my new jutsu that I'm developing? Jiraiya paid attention and answered him. Let's see, show it. Naruto nodded, making only a hand seal, and said, Wind style vacuum sphere dash. Having the jutsu in his hand, Naruto decided to explain. This is a variant of the Rasengan. What it does is, when it hits someone, it traps them in a dome of wind. It avoids the use of hand seals since it prevents them from breathing properly and makes mini cuts to those inside the dome, although I'm still developing it. Jiraiya nodded and said, Nice jutsu. Let's see you throw it at me and I'll tell you my opinion. Naruto nodded and threw the vacuum sphere. When it hit, Jiraiya felt a pressure not too great. He tried to perform a jutsu, but due to the lack of air, he couldn't. Using his long hair, he broke the wind sphere. Naruto was impressed by that. Jiraiya sighed, regaining his breath thanks to the jutsu, and then commented, Well done Naruto, it's a good jutsu, Just like you said, I couldn't do hand seals because the lack of air prevented me, but it still needs more rotational pressure. I was able to break it easily, although if you perfect it, it will easily be an A-rank jutsu. Naruto nodded and said, "Thank you, Erosenin dash." Jiraiya commented, "Don't call me that. I have a reputation to uphold." Naruto shook his head, saying, "When you stop spying on women, I will." Naruto gave his usual smile and Jiraiya smiled too, so they both laughed. Then they continued walking. Along the way, Jiraiya asked, "How are you getting on with the earth jutsu I taught you?" Naruto replied, "It's progressing. I'll have it mastered in a few days." That reminded me dash. Naruto created 10 clones just by thinking and gave the order. They know what to do. The clones nodded and went to practice the earth jutsu. Okay, they went to practice the earth release jutsu. Let's continue. I want to meet the new Hokage. Jiraiya nodded, saying, "Patience, Naruto. Our target won't leave the place we're going to. She likes to gamble. They call her the biggest loser at betting dash." Naruto nodded and said, "I understand. However, someone is waiting for me in Konoha and I have a promise to keep." Jiraiya commented, "Hyuga, you hit the jackpot. The girl is cute, but her father is very strict. How will you manage to gain his approval?" Naruto just smiled and replied, "I already got it. It was the day before we came on this trip." Jiraiya said in amazement, "Wow, I imagine he didn't look too pleased when you told him you wanted to go out with his daughter." Naruto just shrugged and said, "Something like that, but it doesn't matter. I got it and he'll take care of the Hyuga clan elders." Jiraiya nodded, saying, "All right, smart kid. In 3 days we'll arrive at Tanzakagai, so we'll have a free day to do whatever we want." Naruto nodded and they continued on to their destination, the city of entertainment and gambling. 3 days later, Naruto and Jiraiya arrived in Tanzakagai and saw that it was a very lively city. They then looked for an inn to stay in. When they arrived, they rented one and there they were. Naruto knew that Itachi would appear at any moment, so he came up with a way to distract Jiraiya, giving him money to go and do his research. There was a way to get it by gambling. "Erosenin, let's place a bet. Let's see if we're lucky today." Jiraiya said, somewhat surprised, "Are you sure? Don't cry later if you lose all your money." Naruto just shrugged and said, "We won't know until we try." So they both went to the casino to try their luck. 3 hours later, Jiraiya only commented, "If Tsunade is called the biggest loser, then you should be called the luckiest. Just imagine winning that amount of money." Naruto smiled when he learned he had earned a lot of money, so he said, "Well, like I told you, nobody could have known how we do, and look, 1 million ryo well earned." Jiraiya nodded. Naruto caught a familiar chakra scent. He already knew who it was, and thus began his plan. "I'm going to train. It's still very early. Here you go." Naruto gave 10,000 ryo to Jiraiya, saying, "Your payment for accompanying me dash." He just smiled and said, "Okay Gaki, then I'll go do my research. See you at the inn tonight." Naruto nodded. His godfather was very predictable, so once Jiraiya left, he went to meet Itachi. Forest. Naruto had arrived at the forest. Itachi was there. They both approached each other and it was Itachi who spoke first. "I'm here as we agreed, Naruto-kun. Now explain things to me." Naruto nodded and began to explain many things, including his permanent sage mode, his training and mastery of his element. He didn't mention anything about the future or Kurama, Ashura, and his Rinnegan. It wasn't the right time to reveal that yet. Itachi absorbed the information until they came to the topic of Sasuke. "Look, most likely Sasuke will leave the village. I don't know how or when, but he will because of the influence of the cursed seal. I can remove that seal, but I haven't reached level 10 yet. If Sasuke doesn't leave the village in 2 months, I'll be level 10 in Fuinjutsu, and then I'll be able to remove that seal. But if he does leave, I'll try to stop him." Itachi nodded and Naruto continued speaking. "Here, this is my new invention, a communicator. I'll explain how it works." Naruto took out his own and began explaining to Itachi, just as he had to Jiraiya, including the scroll security and its distance from the user. Itachi was amazed. Naruto had to use the power of creation to make a scroll. He already had a brush and ink, so it was easy. When he finished, Itachi nodded, channeled chakra exactly as instructed. The scroll glowed for a few seconds, and then it was finished. Naruto began to explain, "That's it, only you can open the parchment. Now, on to the other matter. The medications you're taking only slow down your illness, but I can cure you now if you'd like." Itachi was amazed by that, so he asked, "How would you do it?" Naruto replied, "Lie down and let me take care of it." Itachi nodded, lay down on the ground, and Naruto placed his palm on Itachi's chest. A golden glow enveloped him, lasting 10 seconds before it ended. Naruto knew Itachi was going to ask, so he explained, "It's a special Uzumaki ability. With this, you should be cured." He lied again. Itachi nodded, stood up and felt his energy restored. Even the strain from using his Mangekyo Sharingan healed. He smiled at Naruto saying, "Thank you, Naruto-kun. Now it's my turn to give you the information." Itachi explained to him about Akatsuki, why they came looking for him, how they operated, their members, and their informant Zetsu. He also mentioned that Zetsu was a spy for the third Hokage. He added that in about 3 years they would begin hunting the Bijou, starting with the first and going up to the 9th. Naruto already knew this, so he continued listening. Itachi also explained that the current leader was Pain, and the other one was named Madara Uchiha. He finished there, and Naruto nodded in agreement with the information. Then he spoke, "Okay, if there's anything new, notify me on the scroll. I'll also let you know about Sasuke. I'd ask you to help me if he escapes, but you'd attract too much attention. If I don't succeed, I'll let you know." Itachi nodded, saying, "Well, Naruto-kun, it's time for me to go. Take care and be prepared. Akatsuki are all S-rank ninjas, so when you face them, don't hold back and use all your strength." Naruto nodded, and Itachi left in a flock of crows. Naruto departed in an orange flash to the inn. When he arrived, he lay down on the bed and simply waited for the next day. He had something special for Tsunade. Last time she humiliated him, now he would humiliate her. He knew he was far from beating her, but with a well-thought-out plan, he could at least play for a while. Day after, Naruto and Jiraiya advanced through the city, searching for their target. Then Naruto asked Jiraiya about something. "Do you have any information about her that we can use to track her? That will save us a lot of money." Jiraiya shook his head in response. "No, I have nothing, otherwise this would have been easier." Naruto nodded. Then they went into a bar to eat, and by sheer coincidence, their target was there, Tsunade Senju, the last Senju in the world. After losing her brother and her boyfriend Dan, she took refuge in alcohol and gambling. Her student Shizune accompanied her. She left the Leaf Village to forget everything. Both her brother and her boyfriend had a dream, to be Hokage. She gave them her grandfather's necklace, but she thought that's why they died. Carrying that necklace and the supposed curse, she never left him. Now she's just sitting there drinking, and her student Shizune is with her carrying a piglet. Naruto and Jiraiya recognized her, approached, and also took a seat. Tsunade looked at them but then ignored them. She recognized Jiraiya but not the other one, so she started the conversation. "Jiraiya, what are you doing here? If it's not one, it's the other. What a day I'm having." Jiraiya simply replied, "What do you mean, Tsunade?" Naruto replied, "You smell like a snake. Orochimaru visited you, didn't he?" Tsunade examined him and said, "Jiraiya, because you're with an Inuzuka, it's very easy to recognize his appearance." Jiraiya shook his head and said, "You're wrong, Tsunade. He's not an Inuzuka. It's hard to explain, but he's the son of Minato and Kushina." Tsunade raised her head and looked at him, saying, "Jiraiya, how can you say that so loudly?" Jiraiya just smiled in response. "Come on, relax, the boy is strong, he is capable of defending himself." Tsunade said again, "But if he's a genin, he can't defend himself alone." Naruto was about to say something but Jiraiya stopped him, then answered him. "Tsunade, you don't even know, he really is dash." I didn't finish because Tsunade interrupted me. "I don't care about your excuses. What have you come for now?" Jiraiya sighed and said, "You see, there was recently an attack in Konoha. Although there wasn't much damage, Sarutobi-sensei chose you as his successor, in other words, as the Godame Hokage dash." Tsunade just laughed at that, so after a few seconds she replied, "Forget it, the Hokage position is for idiots who sacrifice themselves for nothing. Besides, I don't plan on returning to Konoha, so you can leave and never look for me again." This time, Naruto stood up and glared at her. Tsunade wasn't intimidated by that. Then she told him, "What do you want, brat? Being the son of those two doesn't give you the right to look at me like that." Naruto answered him, "The position of Hokage is something I dream of holding someday, and you tarnish it by saying it's for idiots who sacrifice themselves for nothing. Sarutobi Gigi defended the village as Hokage. He's waiting for you now, and he chose you for the position, and you reject it as if it's nothing. You're pathetic. Tsunade stood up and grabbed Naruto, screaming, "Who do you think you are, you little brat, talking to me like that? Tell me where Minato is." "Oh right, he died for nothing." Tsunade touched something dedicated. Naruto held the arm she was using to grab it. She was surprised by the boy's strength. Then she answered him. "He died for nothing. He died like a hero. He saved the village. He saved me, and that's proof of it." Naruto had made a hand seal, but Jiraiya stopped them, saying, "Calm down, both of you. You're attracting attention, and you can't fight here." Naruto nodded, then said, "Let's go outside and sort this out." Tsunade nodded, cracking her knuckles, and said, "As you wish, brat." Shizune spoke this time. "Tsunade-sama, please reconsider this. He's still just a child." Tsunade answered him, "You see that headband? She's old enough to do whatever she likes, so no objections." Jiraiya commented, "Stop, don't fight." Tsunade interrupted him, saying, "Don't interfere, Jiraiya. Didn't you say he's capable of defending himself? Let him prove it, and if you intervene, I'll cut off the only thing that makes you a man." Jiraiya swallowed and nodded. Then everyone went outside. Naruto just smiled without them noticing. He had prepared the ground to humiliate Tsunade. Outside the bar, Naruto and Tsunade stood at a safe distance. Looking at each other, Naruto added something. "Let's make a bet. If I win, you'll retract what you said about the Hokage and about my father." Tsunade commented, "That's fine, but what do I get out of it?" Naruto took out a storage scroll and said, "Here I have everything I won betting. If you win, I'll give it to you. There's almost 1,000,000 ryo." Tsunade nodded and said, "So be it." He stretched out his arm, raising a finger. "I only need one finger to beat you." Naruto just shrugged and said, "As you wish, don't regret it later." They both looked at each other for a second. Although nothing was happening, Tsunade was the one who spoke. "I'll give you the first shot." Naruto shook his head, saying, "No, you're free to come. I'll wait for you here." Tsunade also denied it and said, "No, it's my treat." Naruto also denied it, saying, "No, you come here." They stayed like that for a while. A drop of sweat appeared on the back of Jiraiya and Shizune's necks. They looked like children arguing. Then it was Naruto who started without her noticing. He left a 3-pronged kunai behind. He wanted to test something when he was going to connect a blow. He felt something heading towards his forehead. With an orange flash, he stepped back. Tsunade was surprised by that when she saw the technique of the 4th Hokage, so she said, "So you know that, well, it won't do you any good if you can't hit dash." Naruto felt he would be knocked out if he received that touch. He swallowed hard since just one touch was enough and he would be out. How terrifying. "I must be careful or I will lose," he thought to himself, then went against her again. But this time he was more careful and once again dodged the attack. "Hey kid, you won't gain anything by dodging," Tsunade commented with a smile on her face. Naruto knew she was right, so he decided to do what he does best. Ignore her. He took out his notebook and started writing, ignoring Tsunade. She, on the other hand, only raised an eyebrow. "What are you doing, brat? You won't win like that." Naruto ignored her. Tsunade continued talking, and he just ignored her. A vein throbbed on Tsunade's forehead. Tired of it, she went to him to end things. Naruto noticed her. The heightened senses he learned from Genta helped him in combat. Using natural energy as if it were his sight, he dodged her. Tsunade was amazed by that. Naruto looked at her now, saying, "Were you saying something to me?" Once again, Tsunade went against him, but Naruto waited for her. With his free hand, just as he did with Niji, he slid her forward, then kicked her back. Tsunade was amazed by his strength. It wasn't that of a normal genin. "This brat has incredible strength, however he won't beat me with just that," she thought to herself, then looked at Naruto and said, "I congratulate you on the punch, but it's not enough to beat me." Then it continued. For Naruto, it was time to start his plan. When Tsunade was close to him, with an orange flash he dodged her. Tsunade looked for him and saw him on a roof. Naruto smiled. He wanted to see if she was going to attack again, but it was not what he expected. "Okay, you're good, I admit it. I take back my words about the Hokage and the 4th Hokage, Shizune. Let's go," Tsunade said, and then withdrew from the fight. Naruto hadn't expected that. He wanted to show off, but he couldn't because he hadn't expected Tsunade to surrender. With his eyes rolled back, he said, "Hey, no, I don't accept this. Let's make another bet." Tsunade heard it and asked, "Another one? Let's see what you're going to say to me dash." Naruto commented, "I am developing a new jutsu dash." He made a sign with his hand and a sphere formed in his palm. "It's still incomplete. If I complete it in 1 week, I win. You'll come to Konoha with us and become the 5th Hokage. If a week passes and I haven't finished, then you win. You take my scroll and we'll leave." Tsunade answered him, "Very well, but I'll add this dash." She grabbed the green necklace that was hanging around her neck with her hand. "If you win, you get it. Is that okay with you?" Naruto nodded and said, "Okay, then in 1 week it will be dash." Tsunade looked at Jiraiya and said, "There are things we need to talk about." Jiraiya nodded. Then Naruto appeared, gave his kunai to Jiraiya, saying, "Here, I'll go get my other kunai. I won't be 3 seconds." Then in an orange flash it went to 5 places and then it came back. That's it, it was quick. Tsunade was amazed by the boy's speed. She looked at Jiraiya and he understood. Then everyone left. Jiraiya and Tsunade were drinking and talking. "Well, Jiraiya, tell me, since when does the boy know dash?" Jiraiya commented, "You'll see." Jiraiya began to tell her everything he knew, excluding Naruto's lineage and jujitsu. When he finished, she nodded and asked, "All that, and he still hasn't been promoted? Sarutobi-sensei must be on his last legs." Jiraiya shook his head and said, "In fact, he was promoted. I wanted to tell you, but you didn't hear me. He's a jounin. He just doesn't wear his vest because he didn't want to attract attention." Tsunade nodded, saying, "Well, I deserve it. I underestimated the brat. Even so, I feel like there's a lack of information." Jiraiya nodded and said, "Yes, but only Naruto can reveal that. I'm not allowed to say it. It's a law of Sarutobi-sensei." Tsunade nodded again, saying, "Okay. Well, I see I missed a lot." Jiraiya nodded and asked, "Tell me what Orochimaru wanted." Tsunade paused for a moment and answered, "Nothing, he just came to say hello." Jiraiya shook his head in response. "You're not fooling anyone, Tsunade. I know Sarutobi-sensei injured his arms. What did he offer you to heal him?" Tsunade answered, "Nothing, like I said, he just came to say hello." Jiraiya commented, "Well, I trust you to do the right thing, otherwise I'll stop you myself." Tsunade was just thinking. Jiraiya was watching her. Then they moved on to another topic. Naruto was in his own thoughts thinking, "Damn, my 2 plans never went as I wanted. Oh well, it doesn't matter. The order of the factors does not alter the product. Now to plan how to act against Orochimaru and Kabuto Dash." So he fell asleep and just waited. 1 week later, 2 weeks had passed since they left to find Tsunade. Naruto had perfected his jutsu, testing it on his clones, and he succeeded. Shizen told him to drop the bet, but Naruto refused. He knew it was going to happen, so he just lay down on his bed and waited. 10 minutes passed, and there was a knock at the door. Naruto opened it and saw that it was Shizen. He rushed in. "Naruto, where is Jiraiya?" Naruto just shrugged and said, "I don't know, he's probably doing his research." Shizen just grabbed it and shook it desperately, saying, "Naruto, I'm not kidding, we need to find him. It's Tsunade-sama. She went to see Orochimaru dash." Naruto just sighed, saying, "Okay, I'll track it down." Naruto sniffed the air searching for Jiraiya's chakra. When he found it, he just sighed and said, "There's no need to go looking for it. It's right here." Jiraiya appeared at the window and said, "Ah, that's Tsunade. She poisoned me with a special drug." Shizen went to see him, but Naruto got there first. "Okay, give me a moment." Placing his palm on Jiraiya's chest, he was surrounded by a golden aura. It lasted 5 seconds and ended. "That's it. Now let's go for Tsunade-bachan. I've already detected her chakra. Follow me dash." Shizen was astonished to see that. She wanted to ask but left it for later. Jiraiya nodded. He knew some of Naruto's abilities, but he didn't know what he used. He left it for later. Naruto just thought, well, time to humiliate Kabuto. Minutes passed and they arrived. Tsunade was about to be struck, but a 3-pronged kunai appeared. Kabuto recognized it. In an orange flash, Naruto appeared and kicked Kabuto away. He stood next to Orochimaru. Jiraiya and Shizen arrived. Orochimaru smiled and said, "Kukuku, what a lovely meeting. The 3 Sannin are here dash." Jiraiya answered him, "Orochimaru, today your life ends. You will pay for invading Konoha." Orochimaru just laughed, saying, Kukuku, nice words. Let's see if you can prove it. I looked at Naruto who was there, and he smiled again, saying, Ah, Naruto-kun, you honor me with your presence. Did you come here to die today? Naruto just chuckled as he replied, If I were you, I'd watch that tongue. Otherwise you might fall here. Orochimaru spoke to Kabuto. Have fun with him. Bring his corpse. Kabuto bowed, saying, With pleasure, Orochimaru-sama. Jiraiya began his fight with Orochimaru. Naruto looked at Tsunade. She was covered in blood. His phobia still remained. Then he looked at Kabuto, taking out of his kunai pouch a notebook. Kabuto looked at him and said, You're going to read until I get bored. Maybe you should have thought about it better, Naruto-kun. He just ignored it and then looked up. Ichim, you said something. 4 eyes. I was reading the 1,000 ways to smash your face and dash. Kabuto lunged at Naruto, but he dodged, kicking him in the stomach and then in the ribs, sending him flying. Wow, you can hit like that even when you're distracted. I'm impressed. But you should know that I'm at Kakashi's level. You can't beat me. Naruto looked at him bored, saying, Did you say something? Kabuto prepared his chakra scalpels. Naruto knew that if he cut him it would hurt, so he did something. Taking out his 3-pronged kunai, he showed it to Kabuto and said, If you don't want to get hurt, I recommend you leave. Kabuto ignored him and continued advancing. Naruto looked at him with disappointment, threw his kunai towards Kabuto, who instinctively dodged it. But when it was at his back, in an orange flash Naruto appeared behind him saying, Rasengan. With his free hand he had the Rasengan and he slammed it into Kabuto's back, sending him to the ground. Naruto stopped wasting time and closed his notebook, making a hand seal. He said, Wind style vacuum sphere dash. He had a super concentrated sphere in his hand, and when he tried to hit Kabuto, it exploded into smoke. Naruto immediately looked around for Kabuto and saw him heading towards Tsunade. He immediately went to help her, and Tsunade saw him. She waited for the impact, but it didn't come. There was Naruto in front of her, taking the impact for her. Because you have your dream of becoming Hokage. Naruto smiled and said, Yes, but a Hokage always looks out for everyone, even if he has to be injured, and I won't fall until I become one. Holding his sphere of vacuum in his hand, he struck Kabuto. A layer of wind surrounded him. He tried to break free but couldn't. The cuts were noticeable. The lack of air was noticeable. 1 minute passed and it ended. Kabuto was on the floor, panting. You bastard, what kind of jutsu was that? Naruto smiled and replied, A ninja never reveals his secrets. After a kick, he sent him towards Orochimaru, who was also exhausted from the fight with Jiraiya. Tsunade, still covered in blood, approached Naruto, kissed him on the forehead, and placed the collar on him. You earned it, Tsunade commented, and Naruto smiled, saying, Thank you, Databeo dash. Then she went towards where Orochimaru was. He saw her walking still covered in blood. His fear of blood disappeared. Then she said, Orochimaru, you have caused much pain and suffering to others. I as the Godame Hokage sentence you to death. By sunset there will be one less Sannin in this world dash. Orochimaru laughed at Tsunade's statement, then said, Interesting, Kabuto, do it. Kabuto immediately made a cut and a summoning tattoo reacted. Jiraiya noticed this and made the hand signs, as did Tsunade. From 3 clouds of smoke emerged Gamabunta, Katsuyu, and Manda with the 3 Sannin above them. Naruto watched the scene, simply waiting beside Shizune while the 3 fought. 5 minutes passed, and Jiraiya and Tsunade defeated Orochimaru. I'm retiring for now. There are other ways to heal my arms. Having said that, he sank to the ground with Kabuto. The Sannin's fight was over. Naruto just watched. He smiled seeing that it was all over. Then everyone gathered and went to the inn where they were resting. Night came and everyone was there eating. Naruto thought about telling him too, but he waited until he got to Konoha. 2 weeks later, a month had passed since Naruto and Jiraiya set out in search of Tsunade. The 4 of them took their time. Naruto showed his project to Tsunade, and she was impressed. She told him she would approve it when he presented it to the council. He nodded. Then he met Taunton Shizune's pig, again. As they traveled, they made stops to rest. Naruto took advantage of the time to spend with them. In fact, Naruto enjoyed the month he spent with Jiraiya. He remembered the times he had been with him before time went back. It was the same with Tsunade. To him, she was like a loving grandmother. She always worried about him, and he would make sure to treasure this. The final stop arrived. The great gates of Konoha could be seen in the distance. Izumo and Kotetsu, the eternal guardians, were there, waiting for something interesting to happen. Hey Kotetsu, look, visitors are coming dash. Kotetsu looked. You're right Izumo, those who believe they are dash. Kotetsu replied. I don't know, we just have to wait. Izumo nodded. The group coming to Konoha were none other than Jiraiya, Tsunade, Shizune, and Naruto. Izumo and Kotetsu recognized them immediately, and Izumo said, Look Kotetsu, it's Jiraiya and Naruto dash. Kotetsu replied. Not only that Izumo, look who they're with, it's Tsunade Senju, the medical Sannin dash. Both were astonished. When the group reached the gates, they walked right past. Izumo and Kotetsu bowed to the newcomers, though they were ignored. The group continued onward, watched by the villagers, and murmurs filled the air. Look, it's Tsunade Senju, the medical Sannin. Jiraiya-sama is with her. He surely managed to bring her back dash. Look closely, Namike-sama is with them too. He surely participated in bringing her back. Yes, you're right. But why would they have brought her back? Something important is sure to happen in Konoha dash. Naruto could hear everything. His enhanced hearing made that possible. Although he liked being seen differently now, he still wasn't used to it. He just shrugged. After a few minutes, they arrived at the Hokage Tower. Hokage's office. Hiruzen Sarutobi was in the office as usual. A month had passed since Jiraiya and Naruto went to look for Tsunade. He wanted Jiraiya to reconcile with Naruto, so he allotted a month, he thought. I hope you made good use of this time, Jiraiya. A knock on the door distracted him, signaling a pass. The group of four entered. Sarutobi smiled at the sight of them, and Naruto was the first to speak. Hi hee mission accomplished dash. Sarutobi smiled at his substitute grandson, saying with his usual smile, Good job Naruto-kun dash. Tsunade stepped forward and said, Hello Sarutobi-sensei. It's been a long time since I've seen you. Sarutobi nodded and replied, How are you, Tsunade? I hope you're ready to take my seat and this hat. Tsunade replied, Thank the boy who managed to convince me. Otherwise I wouldn't have paid any attention to Jiraiya. Sarutobi chuckled and then said, Of course, Naruto-kun. I thank you for bringing my successor. You may be next. You will receive payment for the B-rank mission. Tsunade commented, I think it's more like an S. Orochimaru was there and caused problems dash. Sarutobi sighed. His former student was causing trouble as usual, so he nodded, saying, Very well, Naruto-kun. The S-rank payment will be deposited into your account tomorrow. Naruto nodded and Sarutobi addressed Tsunade, saying, Okay, I'll schedule the ceremony for 3 days from now so you can get settled and ready. Tsunade nodded and Sarutobi continued. Oh, I forgot. Go to the hospital tomorrow. Kakashi and Sasuke are psychologically unwell due to a genjutsu. Tsunade nodded again and Naruto said, Well, then I'll be going. See you later. Just as he was about to leave, Tsunade grabbed him, saying, Where are you going? You told me you were going to tell me everything when we get to Konoha. Now speak. Naruto sighed and said, Okay, but first GG please dash. Sarutobi nodded, made some hand signals and the Umbu left. Then he placed the silencing seal. Naruto began. He explained everything, his training, his lineage, and his jujitsu. Tsunade only commented, Show it, then I'll believe you. Making a hand gesture, she made a wooden chair grow. Tsunade never thought she would ever see her grandfather's lineage again. What was noticeable was that the necklace Tsunade gave to Naruto shone brightly. With that, Tsunade had no more doubts. She simply said, Well, I expect great things from you, and don't destroy Konoha in the attempt. At least I want everything to be intact until I hand over the position to someone else. And about your jujitsu, I don't know much, but I imagine you already know how to use it. Naruto nodded and began to explain what he used. He wasn't going to say everything yet, since he wasn't using it yet. When he finished, Tsunade just nodded. Then everyone left. Naruto took advantage of the situation and reserved a table for 2 at a restaurant. The problem was, it was in 5 days, so he just had to wait. 3 days later, the ceremony went smoothly. All the villagers gathered, as well as the shinobi and the rookies. Team Guy was also there. Sarutobi began his lecture, and after 15 minutes, Naruto watched once again as Tsunade Senju was named the Godame Hokage of Konoha. To be continued. Chapter 10. A date, a mission with Kakashi, and the power of the six paths. 2 days later, Naruto woke up as usual. After the month he spent with Jiraiya and Tsunade, everything was back to normal. Today he had his date with Hinata, so he left 3 clones that he thought were more communicators to show the council. He got ready, eating his usual breakfast, then went to look for her. As he walked, he saw his teammates, Team 10. Naruto approached them, greeting them. "Hello Shikamaru, Choji and Ino. How are you?" Choji, who heard him, greeted him. "Hi Naruto, we're fine, we were just going to the barbecue to eat." Naruto nodded. Shikamaru, who was looking at him, said, "Where are you going? Based on the direction, you'll go to see Hinata, right?" Naruto just shrugged and said, "That's right, she's my girlfriend, so there's no problem with me going to pick her up." There was silence for a few seconds. Team 10 assimilated the new information. They knew they were leaving, but with what they had heard last, they hadn't expected that. Ino, being the gossip that she is, asked, "Naruto, since when are you Hinata's boyfriend?" Naruto replied, "From our A-rank mission dash." Ino responded with a smile on her face. "I see, so they've been dating for months dash." Naruto nodded. He didn't care if they knew, since they were going to find out anyway. The sooner the better for him. That way the gossip would spread, and who better than the biggest gossip, Ino? Then he mentioned, "Yes, and I'm trying to figure out what to do about today's date. I've already booked a table at the best restaurant, so if you'll excuse me, I have to go. It was a pleasure talking to you all, see you later." Naruto continued on his way. Team 10 just looked at each other and Shikamaru asked, "What do you want to do today?" Choji and Ino looked at him, and Shikamaru got the idea of what they wanted. "I think we all think the same." They both nodded and Shikamaru continued speaking. "How troublesome, well let's follow the blonde guy and see how he does." So Team 10 followed Naruto to observe him and obtain more information. Naruto was approaching the Hyuga compound, walking slowly as he was in no hurry to arrive. He felt Team 10 following him, but ignored them as he didn't care that they were following him. He arrived at the compound, greeted the guards, and they responded in kind. He walked towards the main house, and when he arrived, he knocked on the door. A maid opened it and asked, "Tell me what you want." Naruto replied, "Hello, I've come to pick up Hinata. She is dash." The maid nodded and said, "Yes, let me call her, wait here." Naruto nodded and waited. 10 minutes later. 10 minutes passed and the door opened again and Hinata came out. Naruto saw her and stretched out his hand, saying, "Are you ready for our date, Hinata-chan?" Hinata nodded, grabbed his hand, and said, "Yes, I'm ready, Naruto-kun." They both walked towards the exit of the complex. Those who saw them only bowed. They already knew that the Hyuga heiress was dating Naruto. Hayashi made sure that all the Hyuga were informed. When they left the complex, they were on their way to their destination. Team 10 saw them. "There they are, let's go dash." Ino commented, and everyone followed them from a distance. Naruto and Hinata walked through the village holding hands, Team 10 following closely behind. They walked like this for 10 minutes. Then when they arrived at their destination, they were amazed to see that it was the new luxury restaurant. Ino commented, "How Naruto got a reservation at this place dash." Choji said, "How lucky. I've never tried the food there." Ino replied, "My father tried to reserve a spot there, but he couldn't because they quickly ran out." Shikamaru, who was listening, said, "No matter how he got it, we must figure out how to get in and keep looking. Let's climb onto the rooftops and see where they are." Knowing Naruto, he must have gotten something very striking. Team 10 went up to the roof and sure enough, Naruto was there with Hinata. They were sitting in the romantic suite. There were heart-shaped balloons and everything was decorated with them. On the table, there was a flower in a vase. It was all very eye-catching. Team 10's jaws dropped to the floor at the sight of such a scene. Then Shikamaru reacted. Typical of Naruto, he likes flashy things. Meanwhile, with the blonde boy, he and Hinata had arrived at the restaurant. He had gotten a reservation thanks to Tucci, since his friend owns the place. Then they went up to the third floor, which was the romantic suite. Naruto always liked things flashy, so it was better than being outdoors. They took a seat and ordered their food, and while they waited, Hinata started the conversation. "Naruto-kun, how have your missions been going lately?" Naruto replied, Ah, well, everyone went well. In fact, I was able to present my new invention to Tsunade-bachan. She told me it was spectacular. Tomorrow I have to present it to the council, so I left a clone at home to rehearse my speech. And you, Hinata-chan, were you able to use what I gave you? Hinata nodded and said, yes, I have almost mastered the combined style. Even so, I have prepared defensive jutsu styles dash. Naruto nodded, saying, great, now when you finish that properly, I'll give you offensive jutsus. I'll also help Shino. I'll give him offensive wind jutsus and defensive earth jutsus tomorrow. He's our partner and I want him to be strong too. Hinata nodded and Naruto continued. Yesterday I met Kiba. He approached me to ask for help. Well, I helped him as much as I could. Flashback. Naruto was walking towards his house until Kiba called him. Naruto, I was just looking for you. Naruto looked at him. It was Kiba calling him. So he greeted him and asked, hi Kiba. Tell me how I can help you. Kiba continued. You see, I'd like to ask if you could teach me how to use some jutsus dash. Naruto raised an eyebrow at that. It was strange that they were asking him, so he continued. It depends. Do you know what your elemental affinity is? Kiba looked like he was asking what that was, and Naruto, noticing this, continued. I see, your face says it all. Come follow me. Let's go to my house. I'll explain it to you there dash. Kiba nodded and followed him to his house. When they arrived, they went inside and Kiba whistled because it was very big. Wow, you have a much bigger living room than mine. I'm so jealous, Naruto commented. You haven't seen everything yet, but anyway, take a seat and wait for me. I'll bring a special paper. Kiba nodded and sat down. Naruto went to get chakra paper. It didn't take him long. When he returned, he commented, okay, listen carefully, this is chakra paper. With this, one can find out their elemental affinity. For example, I'll use it first. You just need to channel chakra into the paper and it will do the rest. If it wrinkles, it's lightning. If it gets wet, it's water. If it burns, it's fire. If it cuts, it's wind. And if it crumbles, it's earth. Okay, here I go. Naruto channeled chakra and the same thing happened as the first time. Kiba was amazed and said, wait, you have all 5 elemental affinities dash. Naruto nodded and said, yes, but I mostly use wind affinity, it's my favorite. I'll only use the others when I'm up against someone I can't win with wind. Okay, your turn. Naruto gave the chakra paper to Kiba. He took it and did the same. The paper crumpled so much that it became a ball. Lightning affinity and very strong. Kakashi-sensei can help you. He has an affinity with lightning dash. Naruto commented, and Kiba just sighed in disappointment, saying, he's only focused on Sasuke, nothing else. Well, that's why I looked for you. I wanted to know if you could help me become stronger. Naruto nodded and said, okay, I'll help you. It's normal that Kakashi-sensei is focused on Sasuke. He was probably ordered to do that. Well, now I'll help you. I'll give you the guidelines on how to progress. You have to do the rest yourself. Kiba nodded and Naruto told him to wait. He went to his library and made copies of how to start with the lightning element and some offensive and defensive jutsus. When he finished, he returned to the room, gave him the scrolls and commented, here are the guides on how to get started with the lightning element, also offensive and defensive jutsus. Remember that lightning is strong against earth but weak against wind. Don't even think about using it against wind users or you will lose. Kiba nodded, saying, I understand. Thank you Naruto for helping me. Now I'll go train. Naruto nodded and Kiba left. Then the blonde went to sleep for a while thinking about what he would do tomorrow. End of flashback. Yes, I gave him some things, he must be training right now, good for him, I hope he gets stronger dash. Hinata nodded, saying, Naruto-kun, you always help those who ask for your help. Never change your attitude. Naruto nodded and replied, never, Hinata-chan. I will always be the same and I will always help those who need help. Hinata nodded, and then their food arrived. They both ate and spent a pleasant time together. When they finished, Naruto tipped the waiter and paid the bill. Since Naruto was rich, he didn't mind paying for expensive things. After they left, they headed towards the mountain where the Hokage heads were located. Naruto had something planned, and there was no better place to go. As they walked, Team 10 followed closely behind. They were spotted by Kiba and Akamaru, who were on their way to train. Kiba shouted to get their attention. Hey guys, what's up? I didn't finish because Choji covered his mouth with his hand and Shikamaru stopped his movements. Ino grabbed Akamaru so he wouldn't escape. Naruto and Hinata heard something, turned around and didn't see anyone, so they just continued on their way. Team 10 managed to hide in time, bringing Kiba so they wouldn't be seen. Shikamaru commented, "Troublesome. Don't make noise. You almost got us discovered. If you promise to keep quiet, we'll tell you what we're doing." Kiba nodded and Choji let him go, saying when he was free, "Okay, what's happening here because they're following the couple of the year." Ino replied, "You knew about this." Kiba nodded and said, "Of course, my mother told me that Naruto spoke with the leader of the Hyuga clan, and all the Hyuga are happy because they're talking about the romance between those two. Didn't you know?" Team 10 shook their heads and Kiba sighed, saying, "Well, now they know, and why are they following them? Don't tell me they want to do something against them. If that's the case, I'll—" He didn't finish because he received a blow to the head from Ino. "Oh, my head. Hey, what's wrong with you?" Ino looked at him annoyed and said, "Don't be an idiot. We don't want to do anything like that. We're just watching to see if Naruto does anything inappropriate." Kiba just laughed and said, "Sure, I know Naruto. I know he's very childish, but when he sets his mind to something, he's serious. Besides, he's my friend, and I trust he won't do anything to hurt Hinata. Well, I'm off. Do what you want. I'll just tell you not to interrupt him on his date, or all hell will break loose." He commented and left. Kiba knew about Naruto's date. He had told him about it yesterday before he left Naruto's house. Flashback. "Okay, I'm going to train." Kiba commented and Naruto nodded, but then said, "Wait, I want to ask you something." Kiba turned around and looked at Naruto again and asked, "What's wrong, Naruto?" Naruto commented, "What do you think about him dating Hinata?" Kiba thought for a few seconds and then commented, "Well, if you like her, all I can say is take care of her and value her. In my family, they always say that family comes first. I trust you to make her happy." Naruto nodded and said, "Thanks, Kiba. Now I'm more confident about doing what I have planned for tomorrow. I'll have my date with her, and if anyone interrupts, well, I'll just say there will be hell to pay for anyone who dares to interfere." Kiba nodded and said, "I wish you luck then. Well, I'm off. Take care." Naruto nodded and Kiba left. End of flashback. Kiba just smiled at the thought and left with Akamaru for the training field to practice lightning. Team 10 followed the pair. They arrived at the Hokage monument, where the Hokage were sitting on the fourth Hokage's head. They saw them talking and spent a while like that. Then sunset arrived. Seeing that nothing was happening, they were about to leave, but then they saw something that amazed them. Naruto was with Hinata, looking at the village. They watched the sunset together. Then Naruto took a small box out of his pocket. Hinata looked at him, thinking, "That is Dash." Naruto commented, "You know, Hinata-chan, sometimes I think about how things were before, but now I know how I want to spend my life, and that's because I want us to be together, and that's why I want to give you this." Naruto opened the small box and there was a ring inside. Hinata blushed at this and Naruto continued, "This represents our relationship. A gift from my mother that she left me, and I want to give it to you. When we grow up, I would like us to get married and start a family with you." Hinata, who saw this, hugged Naruto and kissed him. He returned the kiss. They stayed like that for a few seconds and then separated. Afterward, she commented, "Of course, Naruto-kun, I'd also like to marry you when we're older and start a family too." Naruto nodded and placed the ring on her finger, then commented, "Okay, this will be our promise, one that will be fulfilled in a few years. I know that with you I will be happy and you too, since you are my light." Having said this, he kissed her again and she returned the kiss. They stayed like that for a while and then separated. They both looked back at the village and Naruto commented, "My dream is to one day become Hokage and also to be by your side, because I love you, Hinata-chan." Hinata replied, "I love you too, Naruto-kun, and my dream is to be with you and see you become a better person. I'll be with you when you become Hokage and we get married so we can live happily together." Naruto nodded and so they both walked past looking at the village. Team 10 watched. Ino shed tears at the scene, Choji did too, and Shikamaru just smiled. "It's good to see that you won't be alone anymore," Shikamaru thought. "How romantic. This is a real scoop." Ino thought, "They look so cute like that." Choji thought, then they left. Naruto, using his flying thunder god technique, took Hinata to her house. They said goodbye, and then he went home in a flash of orange. He lay down on his bed, happy about today, and fell asleep thinking about what his children would be like next to Hinata. Naruto's mind space. How beautiful, I see future successors of Ninshu in a few years. Ashura commented and Kurama said, who knows? First we have to see how we stop the blessed war that will be in a few years. Ashura found it amusing and said, patience, first we must see how we will get Naruto to go in search of the old Ninshu base. There I have many useful things for him that he can use to train. Kurama replied, that's easy. There's only 1 month left before the Uchiha brat escapes from Konoha. After that mission, the pervert will take him on a training trip. You can take advantage of that to get him to go there. Ashura nodded and said, okay then, it's just a matter of waiting for it to happen. Kurama nodded and all they could do was wait for it to happen. 2 weeks later, 2 weeks had passed since Naruto and Hinata's date, and rumors spread throughout the village, even reaching the Hokage's ears. Naruto had expected this and his goal was achieved. Thanks to the village gossip, he now found himself in the Hokage's office for a new mission. Naruto, you know why I should call you Tsunade commented and Naruto nodded, saying, I know, not for a mission. Tsunade nodded and said, yes, and to tell you something, you know that the whole village is gossiping that you're in a relationship with the Hyuga heiress. Naruto nodded, saying, I know, and it's not a lie. Besides, we promised that when we grow up we'll get married. Naruto said it proudly and Tsunade sighed, saying, good for you, now don't forget that you are a shinobi, even more so a valuable asset of the village, so I will only ask one thing of you, always come back from your missions. Naruto nodded, saying, of course, Bachan, I will fulfill my dream of becoming Hokage and living with Hinata. Until that dream is fulfilled I will not fall in battle. Tsunade nodded and replied, alright, now about the mission, this time you'll be going with Kakashi. As you know, we're still recovering from the attack and all the Jounin are doing A and S rank missions, the Chunin B and C rank missions, and the Genin D rank missions for the time being. So, since you're a Jounin, you'll be going on an A rank mission. Kakashi already has the mission details. Go now to the gates of Konoha. He'll be waiting for you there. Naruto nodded and said, okay, I'm off then. I'll go home to pick up Genta and a few other things. Well, see you later. Naruto vanished in an orange flash, and Tsunade resumed drinking her sake, leaving her clones to handle the paperwork. Naruto arrived home, grabbed some things and called Genta to join them. But first they ate something. He wasn't in a hurry. He had left kunai scattered throughout the village to aid his movements, so he didn't mind. While eating, he took out his notebook and jotted down his next move. It won't be long before Sasuke leaves the village. It's better that he leaves. That way he'll have strength for the future. Well, I'll finish the mission quickly and wait for that to happen. He thought to himself. When they finished, Naruto enlisted. Genta commented, hey, when we get back I want to teach you some lightning techniques, so you better be prepared because it won't be easy. Naruto nodded and said, sure Genta, I have no problem. Now let's go, we've kept Kakashi-sensei waiting a long time. Naruto grabbed Genta and they went to the gates of Konoha. Kakashi was there waiting. Naruto arrived in an orange flash, saying, sorry for being late. I ran into a black cat and we had to take the long way. Then I remembered I had a marker here and came quickly. Kakashi had a déjà vu, then commented, alright Naruto, it's time to go. We have 10 days to complete the mission and return to Konoha. I'll explain the details on the way. Naruto nodded. Kakashi received a communicator. Naruto presented his invention to the council and they were amazed by it. They automatically approved it and authorized its mass production. Naruto made clones so that they could make many of them. He was paid a good amount for all that. Naruto had money to spare. He was just saving it to remodel some things in his house later. On the way, Kakashi explained the details to Naruto. Okay, we need to go to a village that's being harassed by an A-rank Nuke. He's a very strong lightning user. There are only 2 active wind users in the village, you and Asuma. Since Asuma can't come, you're the only one available, so you're our trump card for the mission. Naruto nodded, saying, understood, and who is our target? Kakashi replied, one of the 7 swordsmen of the mist, wielding the swords Kiba, Raiga Kurasuki, is with a group of bandits raiding villages. He already did it in 2, and in this one we were warned to stop him once and for all. Naruto nodded in response. Okay, let's go then. If we do this quickly, we can get back to Konoha fast. Kakashi nodded and said, sure. But don't take it lightly, he's a strong swordsman. Between the two of us, we'll beat him. Naruto replied, "Alright, let's get there and finish up then." Kakashi and Naruto moved on towards their new destination. 2 days later, Naruto and Kakashi had arrived at their destination. The village was quiet, but only partially, because from the other side they could hear shouts. Both Jonin went to see what was happening and saw bandits beginning to loot everything. Raiga, who was there, was giving them orders. Naruto knew this was new and wondered what other changes would come next. Without waiting, Naruto went and stood in front of the bandits. Kakashi was by his side. They looked at him and laughed. "Mr. Raiga, shinobi came to arrest us," commented a bandit. "How pathetic, they'll die for nothing." Another one commented. Raiga looked at them with boredom, then said, "Kill them, then bring me their corpses." The bandits went after them, but Naruto, just making a hand seal, said, "Wood element, wooden prison dash." From the ground, the wood emerged, trapping all the bandits and leaving them locked up. Raiga looked at it and said, "Interesting, ninjas of Konoha. Plus you brat. I'll give you a proper burial. What's your name?" Naruto looked at him bored and answered, "My name is Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki, the next Hokage Databeo dash." Raiga answered, "Namikaze, you are the son of the yellow flash dash." Naruto nodded in response. "That's right, he's my father and that dash." Raiga smiled at that and said, "Excellent. I will have the honor of killing the son of the yellow flash. You deserve to be remembered. That's why I will give you a good funeral." Raiga readied his twin swords Kiba, charging them with lightning chakra, saying dash, "Ninpo, Ikazuchi no Kiba shining fong, dash." Crossing both swords, he sent a lightning bolt into the sky. A storm formed. Then he lowered his swords. A lightning bolt fell from the sky. Naruto, seeing that, made a hand seal saying, "Wind style, wind dome dash." A dome formed around Naruto and Kakashi. The lightning struck the dome, then dissipated as the wind dome was more resistant. Kakashi commented, "Good job, Naruto. Now let's attack before he attacks again." Naruto nodded, readied a three-pronged kunai ready to attack. Raiga again charged lightning chakra, formed a sphere of lightning and launched it. Naruto, seeing that, readied himself by making a hand seal. Wind style, great advance. The wind generated by Naruto dissipated the sphere of lightning. Kakashi, who had reached the attack range, began. Raiga defended himself with his swords, and Kakashi with his kunai and Sharingan revealed. Naruto analyzed the situation and prepared for the next lightning attack. As Raiga attacked, he saw a blind spot where he was going to hurt Kakashi, but his attack didn't reach him because, with an orange flash, Naruto appeared and blocked it. Kakashi kicked Raiga away and looked at them, saying, "It seems I'll have to get serious." Raiga readied his swords, charging them with lightning chakra. He commented, "Reizo, Ikazuchi no Utage dash." Placing their swords on the ground, a powerful beam of light shot out. Thanks to the rain, its range and speed increased. Seeing this, Naruto made a hand seal, saying, "Wind style, wind wall dash." Blowing, I created a wall of wind that blocked Raiga's attack. He saw that, then realized that Namikaze must fall first so that the other one can fall after him. Then I created a mist. Naruto, noticing this, made a hand seal, saying, "Wind style, great advance dash." The wind dispelled the mist and he saw that they were surrounded by many Raiga. Naruto, seeing this, smiled. Then with a thought, he created twice as many clones. He sent them against the Raiga clones. Then the real one appeared behind Naruto. Kakashi saw him. He just said, "Watch out, Naruto." Naruto saw him and was pierced by Raiga's sword. He smiled, but so did Naruto, and he disappeared in a cloud of smoke. A clone dash, Raiga thought, and Naruto appeared behind him, kicking him. Kakashi sighed, forgetting that he wasn't the same as before. He just smiled, seeing that he was able to defend himself against an elite jonin like Raiga. Naruto stood next to Kakashi. Raiga got ready, crossed his swords, channeling lightning chakra, then said, "Ninpo, Ikazuchi no Yoroi, armor of light. You have tired me out. I will finish you off with one blow dash." Raiga climbed to the very top of a tree, then began to spin on his axis. Lightning chakra surged and the lightning of nature also combined, strengthening the attack. Then he said, "Ninpo, Ryu no Tatsumaki, thunder tornado dragon." Dash. A giant lightning dragon formed. Kakashi analyzed the situation. This is bad. If it hits us, the village will suffer damage. Naruto, do you have anything to combat this? Naruto nodded and said, I have one. Kakashi-sensei, stay behind me. Dash. Kakashi nodded. Naruto created a Rasengan in his palm, then created 2 clones. Kakashi, noticing what he was going to do, stayed behind. The Rasengan, which was being manipulated by the other 2 clones, began to sprout blades. They gradually grew until a spinning shuriken was created. Then Naruto prepared himself. Wind style. Rasen Shuriken Dash. He launched it. This time he didn't hold back. His Rasen Shuriken was at maximum power. The Thunder Dragon advanced. Both attacks collided. They fought to see who would dominate, but due to elemental superiority, the Rasen Shuriken split the Thunder Dragon in 2. Raiga, noticing that his best attack was nullified, just waited for the impact. He thought, Ranmaru, I think we'll meet again. I hope you've been waiting for me wherever you are. The attack hit, absorbed Raiga, and the Rasen Shuriken expanded, destroying everything. After a few seconds, it was over. Nothing remained of Raiga's body, only his swords. Ashura, who was watching everything, said, Naruto, take those swords. They have excellent material for making jutsu without seals. I'll melt them down to make you some new swords. Naruto nodded, grabbed both swords and stored them in a storage scroll. Kakashi, who was watching everything, said nothing, just thought they were battle trophies. The fight with Raiga was over, but there was still more to come. Naruto asked, I think we're finished now that Kakashi-sensei dash. Kakashi looked around and said, I think we should help fix some things. Also, let's spend 2 days here. Something will probably happen while I see what I do with the prisoners. Naruto nodded. The villagers approached and triumphed over Raiga's fall. Then Naruto helped with the reconstruction using his wood element, and as Kakashi commented, they stayed for 2 days. 2 days passed, and seeing that nothing was happening, they decided to return. The villagers said their goodbyes and the 2 jounin left. As they walked, Ashura spoke to Naruto. Naruto, I sense your power is increasing. It's time to explain how the infinite Tsukuyomi works. Naruto raised an eyebrow at that, saying, Don't tell me I should look at the moon like Madara did. Oh no, that would be putting everyone in the infinite Tsukuyomi. I don't know dash. Ashura laughed at that and said, Calm down, Naruto, you don't have to do any of that. As father once told you, only you can use it to its full potential, so you have much more power than that wretched Madara. You just need to learn how to use it, and I'll help you with that. Now I'll explain. Just like the Tsukuyomi of the Sharingan, you channel chakra into your Rinnegan and it will emit a light in front of you. Anyone you illuminate with it, even if they cover their eyes, will fall under its effect. Now, as its name suggests, the genjutsu will never end unless you release it by simply making a snake hand seal. With that, you can release whomever you want. Now, since there's no one to test it on, I'm just informing you so that if you ever want to use it, just don't abuse it. Naruto nodded and then continued on his way. A day passed since they were returning to Konoha, but 4 shinobi appeared before them. Kakashi went on guard, saw their headbands, and recognized them as ninjas from IWA. Kakashi sighed. It was only a matter of time before they appeared. He thought to himself. Naruto, who was looking at them, got into a fighting stance. An IWA ninja approached saying, You're Konoha trash. Today we will kill the son of the yellow flash dash. Naruto sighed, and then an idea entered his head. Perfect, these will be good test subjects. The IWA ninja launched themselves forward. Kakashi enlisted, but Naruto stopped him, saying, Stay behind me, Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi nodded. Naruto raised his headband and revealed his Rinnegan. Then it emitted a glow that illuminated the IWA ninjas. It lasted a few seconds, but nothing happened. The ninjas took advantage and stabbed Naruto, killing him. Kakashi, seeing this, wanted to help him, but he was also stabbed and fell dead. The IWA ninjas smiled at that, carried the corpses and left, or so they thought. Naruto was standing there, finished for a few seconds, and then stopped emitting the light. Kakashi, who was watching, was amazed. The Rinnegan was reflected in the eyes of the IWA ninjas. Naruto sighed, covered his left eye, satisfied with what he did. Kakashi asked, Naruto, what did you do to them? Naruto smiled at the question and answered, They are under a powerful genjutsu, and will remain so until I decide otherwise. Kakashi nodded and asked, If it's a genjutsu, Then they will free themselves. Naruto shook his head and said, no, only another Rinnegan user can. Besides, right now they must be living their greatest dream. Anyway, what do we do with them? I think killing them would be the best option. Kakashi nodded and said, yes, that's better. Well, I'll take care of it. Kakashi, upon stabbing one, killed him. He didn't scream or anything. He just fell to the ground with his eyes closed. Out of curiosity, he opened his eyelid and noticed that the Rinnegan was no longer reflected. He thought, what a terrifying jutsu. If Naruto can do that, no one could stop him. After that, he continued killing everyone until he finished. Using a fire jutsu, he incinerated them. Naruto saw this and commented, Kakashi-sensei, please don't mention my jujitsu for now. Only a few people know about it, and I will reveal it when I deem it appropriate. Kakashi nodded and replied, don't worry, I won't tell anyone about your jujitsu. Now let's continue. We must reach the village tomorrow. Naruto nodded and they set off. Day after, Naruto and Kakashi were arriving at the gates of Konoha. Kakashi indicated through the communicator that they were arriving at the Eternal Guards, Izumo and Kotetsu. Upon receiving the message, they prepared the document for their arrival. When they arrived, both greeted him. Kakashi signed the document and then Izumo commented, Kakashi, something happened last night. Sasuke left the village. The Hokage sent a group of 5 shinobi early this morning after him. I'm letting you know so you're aware. Kakashi was stunned by the information. He just nodded in thanks. Naruto, who was also listening, didn't believe this was possible. He thought, impossible. Sasuke still has time to leave because he went ahead. Oh no, this is bad, very bad. If my previous opponent was strong, how will they be? Damn it, I must go to the Hokage to see who sent Dash. Naruto wasted no time. He grabbed Genta and Kakashi, and with an orange flash headed towards the Hokage's office. Hokage's office. Damn you, Uchiha. When I get my hands on you, you'll know true pain. Tsunade commented, and Sarutobi, who was there, said, calm down, Tsunade. Let's just wait until they come back with him. Then we'll see the perfect punishment for him. Tsunade was about to say something, but Naruto and Kakashi arrived in an orange flash. Without wasting any time, Naruto spoke. Hokage-sama, who did you send to find Sasuke? Tsunade, seeing the formality with which the blonde man asked, realized that the problem was serious and then commented, Shikamaru, Choji, Niji, Kiba, and Rock Lee left an hour ago. But don't worry. I sent a request for help to Tsunade to assist us with this. Naruto nodded and said, okay, I'm leaving, I have to go save them. Tsunade called out to him, stopping him in his tracks. Wait, here's another mission with Kakashi, you need to go immediately. Naruto, who heard this, sighed, lifting his headband and commented, you know, someone once told me, those who break the rules are considered trash, but those who abandon their friends are worse than trash. It's true that as shinobi we must follow orders, but my friends are in danger now. Then he turned his head, looking at her with his Rinnegan in view. If you want to consider me trash for breaking the rules, go ahead, but I will never abandon my friends, I'm leaving. Kakashi stood beside him and said, wait Naruto, I'll go with you. There are 2 of my students involved, I want to see them too. Naruto nodded, grabbed Genta, and with an orange flash they left. Tsunade, who watched them, sighed, saying, this kid will give me more gray hairs sooner, when I get back. She was interrupted by Sarutobi. Calm down Tsunade, Naruto inherited the will of fire. He always puts his comrades first and now he has a feeling that they are in danger. I know he will come to save them. Tsunade replied, you're right, Sarutobi-sensei, but still, he shouldn't act on his own. Well, I'll think of something. Now I hope he arrives on time. Naruto was at the gates of Konoha, Kakashi by his side. He was going to make some hand signals, but Naruto stopped him. I know what you want to do, but you don't have to worry. I'm a chakra tracker. As long as they have chakra, I can find them. Kakashi nodded. Naruto, sniffing the air, located them. I have them, follow me. Naruto left and Kakashi followed him. The blonde just thought, I'm almost here, friends. I don't know why this was brought forward, but I feel you're in danger. Hold on until I arrive. Naruto knew there was a mistake in this. He prepared for the worst. If he had to use the 6 paths of the Rinnegan, he would use it without hesitation. Commercial break. If you like my content, I invite you to follow me. That way you'll be kept up to date on all my story updates and announcements of new fics or new chapters. Now let's continue. Naruto, along with Kakashi and Genta, advanced. The first one they met was Choji. Ashura Path. Ha ha ha, you damn fat ball. Even eating your little pills won't help you. Now that I see you half dead, I'll give you the final blow dash. Choji, who looked at him, just closed his eyes, thinking, sorry guys, I gave it my all and still lost. This is the end for me. I waited for the blow, but it didn't come. A three-pronged kunai appeared, and through an orange flash Naruto appeared stopping the blow, and with a kick made his opponent retreat. Then Kakashi and Genta appeared beside him. He looked at Choji badly injured and commented, Choji, my friend, I will heal you now. Please hold on dash. Naruto created a clone and, with his Rinnegan visible, summoned the King of Hell. The king opened his mouth, stuck out his tongue, grabbed Choji, and swallowed him. He began to chew him. Naruto felt all of Choji's exhaustion and commented, Genta, Kakashi-sensei, cover my clone. He's healing Choji now. He shouldn't be distracted for the time being. I'll take care of this guy. Kakashi nodded, positioned himself next to Genta to protect the clone. Knowing that the questions were for later, the opponent just laughed saying, ha ha ha, trash, you won't be able to beat me, the great Jirobo dash. The car called Jirobo commented. Naruto looked at him bored but knew that he shouldn't play now. If his friend was like this, then the others were in danger. I don't care who you are, but I'll finish you off now. Jirobo laughed at that, then said, let's see if you think you're brave now when I activate the third level of my curse seal. Upon hearing that, Naruto felt an even greater sense of malice. Jirobo's body grew, his horns lengthened, 2 more arms sprouted, and his chakra intensified. Naruto saw that this was dangerous, and then he thought, I have no other option, it's time to use the 6 paths of the Rinnegan dash. Jirobo lunged towards Naruto, managed to block his fist, felt the great force of that blow, stepped back when he saw that at that moment he could lose, then commented, you are strong, but the Azura path is stronger than you. Jirobo laughed, then charged again, but surprisingly Naruto stopped the blow. Jirobo, noticing this, tried to hit him with his other arms, but couldn't. Then he saw that Naruto himself had grown more arms. These were mechanical. After a kick, he sent Jirobo flying. Without wasting time, he lunged at him. Jirobo, noticing this, got ready. Naruto hit him with his head in Jirobo's chest. Jirobo gasped in pain. That, impossible, my level 3 curse seal must be enough to finish them off dash. Naruto said nothing, using his hand. He created a cannon that was charging chakra against Jirobo. Disappear, chakra cannon dash. A beam of chakra shot out, impacting Jirobo and piercing through him. To ensure safety, Naruto launched rockets from his other arm towards him. They all hit, leaving Jirobo's body in pieces. Naruto sighed, it's over. Then he undid his mechanical arms. Kakashi looked amazed at that. Then the clone finished healing Choji. The King of Hell took him out of his mouth and left him on the floor. Choji opened his eyes and saw Naruto and Kakashi, then commented, am I in heaven or what? Naruto shook his head and said, no Choji, I've already healed you, you'll be fine. Now we must continue, you can get up dash. Choji nodded and said, thanks Naruto, I can still go on dash. Naruto nodded and they continued on to the next one. Camino Preta. Naruto and the rest followed. He detected Niji's weak chakra, and when he arrived he immediately went. Fool, even if you knew where I was, it wouldn't do you any good since your Byakugan has a blind spot. Niji was on his last legs. An arrow shot straight towards him. He could do nothing, he just waited. But the impact never came, he only heard it. Wind style, great advance dash. The arrow was deflected. Naruto arrived along with the rest. Seeing Niji's condition, he began the same. He created a clone and he summoned the King of Hell. Niji saw that with amazement. Naruto just told him, calm down Niji. I'll heal you and you'll be fine. Niji nodded and said, be careful, he uses his chakra to create things. Naruto nodded, saying, thanks Niji, I'll take care of it now, rest. The King of Hell grabbed Niji and placed him in his mouth. Began to heal him. Naruto said, having a hand seal. Wood element. Wooden dome dash. A small dome surrounded the clone that was healing Niji. Then he said, take care of the dome, I'll take care of the enemy now. They all nodded and stayed to guard the dome. Ha ha ha, another piece of trash. Well, it doesn't matter, now you'll end up crushed by me, the six-armed kid Kadamaru. Now activate my level 3 curse seal dash. Naruto sensed the malice again. Kadamaru's body changed, becoming uglier. Naruto, sensing his chakra, already knew his position, but multiple arrows went in his direction. Knowing that they are created with chakra, he thought, if it's chakra, then the Preta path will be sufficient. Naruto stretched out his hand and created an invisible dome. When the arrows hit, they encountered an invisible shield that absorbed them. Kadamaru watched in amazement, then prepared himself, but a three-pronged kunai appeared beside him and threw an orange flash. Naruto appeared with a Rasengan in his hand. This one hit Kadamaru in the back and sent him to the ground. Without wasting time, Naruto went and created his chakra claws. Kadamaru readied another arrow and spat it towards him, but as before, it hit a shield that absorbed the attack. Naruto continued and pierced him with his claws, then threw him to the center. Naruto appeared to give him the final blow, but Kadamaru fired some arrows towards the rest. Naruto noticed it and threw an orange flash went there and blocked the attack by absorbing it. Naruto got annoyed by that and using the Ashura path again, he created the chakra cannon again and said, "Disappear, chakra cannon." The beam created by the chakra cannon flew swiftly towards Kadamaru, and before he could dodge, it pierced him, killing him instantly. Naruto sighed, then dispelled the wooden dome, and the king of hell was finished. He expelled Neji, who saw all his strength restored and his wounds healed, then looked at Naruto and said, "This is the second time you've helped me." Naruto, "Thank you." Naruto nodded and then said, "Don't worry, Neji, we must go to the others now, you can go ahead." Neji nodded. "Okay, let's go." Naruto commented and everyone followed him to the next one. Animal path. Naruto and company advanced, they reached a ravine, they saw that there were 4 people, one was Kiba who was badly injured and bleeding. Then there was another one with a black cat suit, Naruto recognized him as Kankuro. Then they all went down towards them. "Ha ha ha, what will you do now? Your puppets have been destroyed, you only have one left." "That's right, Sakan, now let's finish this dash." "Yes, Yukon, with our level 3 curse seal active, this will end quickly." Sakan commented and Yukon nodded. Kankuro, who saw that he was in danger, just thought, "This is bad, now I only have one puppet available. If they destroy it, it will be the end." As they both advanced, they were struck by Neji and Naruto who arrived just in time, forcing them back. Kankuro sighed at the arrival of more reinforcements. Naruto went to where Kiba looked at him, saying, "I'm a disaster. I couldn't beat them." Naruto shook his head in response. "Don't worry, Kiba. I'm here and I'll take care of them. I create a clone and summon the King of Hell." He opened his mouth grabbing Kiba, who looked scared, but Naruto commented, "Don't be afraid. It's my power. It will heal you immediately." Kiba nodded and let the King of Hell act. Naruto stepped forward saying, "I'll take care of them, you guys take care of the clone that's healing Kiba now." Everyone nodded, but Neji also stepped forward, saying, "There are 2 Narutos, together we can beat them." Naruto nodded and said, "Okay, just be careful, if you analyze them well, they focus on close-range attacks, so they're perfect opponents for us." Neji nodded and they both got into fighting stances. Sakan looked at him amused and said, "Look, Yukon. More kids to have fun with." Yukon nodded and said, "If Sakan, now we can have some fun with them." Sakan, biting his thumb, made hand seals, saying, "Summoning Jutsu Dash." A giant insect emerged from a cloud of smoke, and Naruto commented upon seeing it. "Neji, leave that one to me, take care of the other one." Neji nodded. Naruto thought, "It's time I used the animal path." Naruto placed his palm on the floor and the kanji appeared. Then he said, "Summoning Jutsu Dash." A rhinoceros emerged from a cloud of smoke. It had the eyes of the Rinnegan. Then it began its charge against Sakan's summoning. The insect grabbed it to impale it, but it couldn't. The rhinoceros stuck its horn in it, causing the giant insect to disappear in a cloud of smoke. Sakan, noticing this, glared at Naruto with hatred. Naruto wasted no time, creating his adamantine chains and beginning to attack Sakan. He grabbed him, and with his other palm, he had a Rasengan ready to strike. When it hit him, Sakan gasped in pain. Then he created his chakra claw, piercing his heart and killing him. After that, he heard, -8 trigrams 128 palms dash. Naruto watched as Neji finished him off, waited and saw that Yukon was no longer getting up. To make sure, he threw a normal kunai at his head, finishing him off. Niji saw it and Naruto said, "Just in case." Niji sighed and nodded. Then they went to check on Kiba. The King of Hell finished and took Kiba out of his mouth. He was completely healed. Then Naruto commented, "I'd like to talk, but we must move on. We don't know how the others are. Let's go." They all nodded and went towards their next objective. Naraka Road. Naruto and company advanced and saw Shikamaru and Temari. They were tired from the fight. Their other opponent was also there. He looked at them saying, "Bastards, even if they break my flute, they are not capable of killing me. I will use my third kunai." I didn't finish because a three-pronged kunai appeared in his face, and through an orange flash Naruto appeared, grabbed him by the neck and told him, "No, you won't use that level 3. His opponent was surrounded by adhering chains, suppressing her chakra. Naruto continued, "Now you'll tell me how they obtained that power." She looked at him and said, "What do you care, bastard? Tayuya won't say anything. Besides, this power was temporary since it only lasted 1 day, and we took advantage of that. Now screw you." Naruto summoned the King of Hell. Tayuya looked at him scared and Naruto spoke again. "Answer my question or you die." Tayuya looked at him and said, "Rot in hell." Tayuya's tongue was thrown out and the King of Hell extended his arms. It was time for judgment. When he detected that she did not respond, he ripped out Tayuya's tongue, killing her. Naruto sighed. He had only obtained a little information. Then he threw Tayuya's body aside and returned to the rest. Shikamaru, who was looking at his left eye, said, "So that's what you're hiding, huh?" Naruto just commented, "Questions aside, we must now help Lee once and for all." They all nodded and followed him to his final destination, Deva Road. Naruto and company advanced. When they arrived, they saw a field of bones formed. Gaara was there. He looked at them and said, "Don't go near it, it comes out of the bones." An albino appeared behind Shikamaru ready to stab him, but Naruto managed to block it. The albino saw them and said, "More and more are arriving, no matter what. In the name of Orochimaru-sama, I will kill them." The rest stared in amazement. They hadn't noticed him. Not even Kakashi, who was there. Naruto sensed the albino's malice, so he moved quickly to stop his attack. Gaara stood beside them, carrying Lee, who had many wounds. Gaara commented, "That bastard killed him. I couldn't do anything to stop him. I'm sorry." Shikamaru, who saw him alone, lowered his head. "Someone died because of him. The mission was a failure." Naruto commented, "Come closer to him, I want to examine him." Gaara nodded, and under Lee's body, the albino tried to attack, but Naruto got tired, raised his hand and said, "Shinra Tensei." The albino was pushed away, and after he was gone for a few minutes, Naruto approached him, looked at him and said, "I'll bring Lee back. It'll take 10 minutes since he has too many injuries. But still, I need you to defend my clone who will take care of it." Shikamaru protested at that moment. "Naruto, even I know that's impossible. He's already dead and there's nothing that can be done. All of this failed. I failed because of me, the Mu." I didn't finish because Naruto slapped him. "Shut up, Shikamaru, you didn't fail. You never knew this was going to happen. Besides, many things can happen on a mission. Now understand this dash." I grabbed Shikamaru by his clothes and lifted him up. "Never say it was your fault. We accept this. We are shinobi. We never know what will happen to us tomorrow. But even so, you always thought of everyone. You didn't abandon your comrades. You thought of a backup plan, which was to ask for help in case things went wrong. You did it for them, and you must remember that." He let go of Shikamaru and turned to Lee, then commented, "I trust you to come up with a plan while I face that monster. For now, take care of my clone while I bring Lee back." Naruto created a clone and it summoned the King of Hell. The rest who didn't look at him were scared, but Naruto commented, "Calm down, this is my left eye ability. I'll use Rinne Tensei and bring Lee back." The King of Hell grabbed Lee and put him in his mouth to chew him. Naruto looked at Gaara and he understood. He surrounded the clone with his sand, creating a dome. "Don't worry, I'll make sure nothing happens to him." Naruto nodded and commented, "Everyone get ready. This guy is coming. I'll fight him." I looked at Shikamaru and said, "I trust you'll come up with a plan to stop this guy dash." Shikamaru nodded and Naruto unsheathed his sword, raised it and passed his palm over the blade, covering it with wind chakra, then prepared for combat. The albino appeared, looked at Naruto saying, "You're different from the rest? You'll be worth my time. Let me introduce myself. I'm Kimimaro and now you'll die here dash. Naruto replied, a pleasure, Kimimaro. I am Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki, and I'll tell you this, you will pay for killing my partner. Naruto lunged at him. Kimimaro pulled out a bone shaped like a sword and engaged Naruto in a kenjutsu duel. They danced, clashing metal against Kimimaro's hard bone. Despite having wind chakra, he couldn't cut that bone. Naruto stepped back, using wind chakra in his sword, he said. Wind style, gale cut dash, sending out a wave of wind. I hoped it would hurt Kimimaro, but he just made a move and dispelled the jutsu. Naruto, seeing that, just thought, this guy is tough, the wood element won't do anything to him. I think I can use the Deva path to defend myself and attack him. With that in mind, he re-enlisted and counterattacked. Kimimaro did the same. Then they both faced off again in a kenjutsu duel. Shikamaru managed to react thanks to Naruto. He observed the fight to analyze the current situation. Then Kimimaro went down hard. Naruto saw that and shouted, everyone be careful, it might happen somewhere else. Everyone paid attention to their surroundings. Then Kimimaro appeared behind Shikamaru again, ready to stab him, but Kakashi this time reacted in time and blocked Kimimaro's attack. When Naruto saw it, he stretched out his hand saying, Ban Showtime. He pulled Kimimaro towards him, preparing a Rasengan in his palm and struck the albino in the stomach, but Kimimaro covered himself with his bones. Seeing the situation, Kimimaro used his spine like a whip. Naruto, seeing this, created a chain in his palm and used it to grab Kimimaro's spine, immobilizing him. Using his sword, he tried to stab Kimimaro, but he defended himself using a bone sword. Thus, they faced each other again in a kenjutsu battle. Shikamaru finished analyzing the enemy and then explained his plan. Alright everyone listen up, now we're gonna counterattack. It seems the enemy is only focusing on short-range attacks, so Niji, Choji, and Kiba are out of the question. I'm sorry, but it's for the best. Temari, Kankuro, and Kakashi-sensei, you'll be the ones to help with the plan. First Naruto will push him here, then Kankuro will stop him with his puppet, then Kakashi-sensei will attack him with a mid-range attack. Then I'll take advantage of that to grab him with my shadow possession and Temari will send him to the sky with your wind and let's hope Naruto finishes him off there. Did everyone understand? Everyone nodded, so it was time for the plan. When Naruto saw that they were calling him, he created a clone and sent it while he was fighting Kimimaro. Shikamaru explained the plan to him. The clone understood and dissipated. Naruto received the information and smiled. Well done, Shikamaru. Here it is. Shinra Tensei. Naruto, using the power of gravity, sent Kimimaro flying, just as they had agreed. Kankuro, using one of his puppets, managed to stop Kimimaro, but Kimimaro destroyed Kankuro's last puppet. Kakashi prepared the great fireball jutsu and launched it. Kimimaro, seeing the attack, only covered himself with his bones to avoid serious damage, but stopped when he saw a shadow paralyze him, taking the full force of the attack. Finally, Temari, using her fan, sent Kimimaro flying. Seeing that everything was done, Naruto knew it was his turn. He had his jutsu ready, so he launched it. Wind style, Rasen Shuriken dash. The Rasen Shuriken advanced towards Kimimaro and managed to hit him. Naruto returned to the rest when he saw that it was all over. There was Kimimaro falling, but he was not dead yet. With his last strength, he said, "It's time for level 3 dash." Kimimaro was surrounded by pure bones produced by the bone field. Naruto sensed the malice and said, "This is not over yet." The bones on the field were piling up with no option. The only thing to do was attack, but no one could anymore because they had spent the last of their attack except Kakashi. Naruto just said, "Stay behind me. I'll blow all this up." Concentrating all his chakra, he raised his hands and thought, "This attack will consume half of all my current reserves, but I must do it." When he finished, he only said 2 words, "Shinra Tensei." A powerful gravitational field was created in front of Naruto, sending everything flying until only dust remained. Looking to see if there was any trace of the enemy, he saw it. A giant of bones. It was approaching them. The group watched this and could do nothing. Naruto, not yet having given up, then spoke. "Whatever happens, just stay back." The rest looked at Naruto in confusion, and he concentrated, channeling the remaining senjutsu he had, and performed a hand seal, saying, "Wood element, Giant Wood Man Jutsu Dash. The ground shook and a giant wooden figure emerged from it, with Naruto on top of it. Only Kakashi recognized the technique. He commented, "This is beyond our reach. Let's leave Naruto to handle it." Everyone nodded. The wooden giant and the bone giant clashed. It was a battle of strength. Kimimaro, who was the core of it all, just watched. The bone giant made a bone sword come out of his body. Noticing that Naruto separated and stopped the sword attack with the wooden giant's hands. Then with a hand seal he said, "Wood element. Multiple wooden dragons dash." The wooden dragons came out grabbing the bone giant. The wooden giant took the bone sword from him, throwing it to the ground, then punched the bone giant, and so it continued. Naruto, seeing that this was not going to end, there was only one way, the Chibaku Tensei. Naruto ran towards the bone giant. He saw that in its center was Kimimaro. Then he went towards him, raised his hand and said, "Shinra Tensei." Making a space in the center, Naruto charged, his power increasing every second. There was no time to hesitate. If he didn't finish now, there wouldn't be another chance. Without him noticing, his right eye changed. Naruto awakened his second Rinnegan with 6 tomo. Something red appeared on his forehead, but it wasn't noticeable since it was covered by his headband. Then he levitated Kimimaro, joining his hands in prayer, and then said, "Seal of the 6 paths, Chibaku Tensei Dash." Using Kimimaro as a core, the rocks surrounded him. The bone giant disintegrated due to the absence of the core in his chest. A mini-moon formed in the sky. The others who watched were astonished by such a feat. Naruto then used the power of gravity to send the mini-moon into space, where it would be lost and never return. The battle ended. Naruto returned to the others and everyone noticed the change. His right eye had changed to match his left. Kakashi only noticed what was on his forehead and said nothing yet. The clone ended, and from the mouth of the King of Hell, Lee emerged alive once more. What happened? The only thing I remember was that guy. Right, where is that guy? Naruto approached him and commented, "Lee's finished, it's all over." He couldn't finish because he fainted, becoming unconscious. Kakashi caught him before he fell to the floor and only said, "Good job, Naruto, now just rest. Let's all go back to Konoha. Sasuke must be far away by now and it will be impossible to follow him. The priority is Naruto now. Let's go dash." They all nodded and returned to Konoha. Naruto managed to awaken a unique power, something he would find out later. To be continued. Chapter 11. Explanations, Naruto's Master, and the 3-year journey. Naruto's mind space. "Kurama, I think my father went too far in giving his power to Naruto dash." Ashura commented and Kurama nodded. "You think so? I think he's still the same as always, although well, that symbol on his forehead, really, yes, it's the power of the old man, literally a living clone of him dash." Ashura nodded and said, "Yes, however it is not enough against Kagaya, so the only thing left for him is to train, since the power he has now is greater than before." Kurama nodded in response. "Yes, well, let's hope he wakes up then." 1 week later, Konoha Hospital. Naruto opened his eyes, both of them the same color, purple with concentric circles around the pupil and 6 tomo in each one. He examined the place and determined that it was the hospital. Looking further, he saw that he was alone in the room. Then he remembered what happened in the search for Sasuke. He thought, what the hell was all that about? Because those guys were stronger than before. Lee, good lord, Lee died because of that bone guy. The good thing is that I managed to revive him. My head hurts so much. Then a voice interrupted his thoughts. "It's good that you're up, Naruto. Now there's a lot to talk about, but first, come to your mental space and we'll talk." Naruto nodded, closing his eyes and going into his mental landscape. Naruto's mindscape. "Okay, now we need to talk about your new change," Ashura said, and Naruto raised an eyebrow at that, completely confused. "Change, what a change dash," Ashura commented. "Look at yourself in the water." Naruto looked at his reflection in the water and saw that his sky blue eye was gone, replaced by a second Rinnegan with 6 tomo. The surprise didn't end there. He also saw that he had a Rinnegan symbol on his forehead, but it was red and adorned with 6 tomo. What the hell is this? I understand that my second Rinnegan was going to happen, but the old sage didn't explain what's happening to my forehead. Ashura commented, "Naruto, you're radiating so much power right now. That's why that manifested. You're practically the second sage of the 6 paths, even though you don't yet possess the power of the 6 paths." although I wouldn't be surprised if you've already unlocked it. Well, it doesn't matter. Now, the important thing you need to know is that with all of this, you're on par with my father, no, much more so. So now all that's left for you is to train. You'll learn to use the power, and then I'll help you unlock the power of the 6 paths. And while we're at it, we'll open the cage. That way, you can combine your power with Kurama's, and with that, no one will be able to stop you. Kurama added, yes, with my power at your disposal, nothing will stop you. Now the question is, first you have to talk to them, you know what I mean, dash. Naruto nodded and said, my parents, I know, but it's not the right time yet. First the training trip and then that will happen. Ashura commented, regarding that, Naruto, since you're going to travel, it's time you started preaching Ninshu. I'll help you here. It's time I introduced myself to everyone. Arrange a meeting with Miss Senju. I'd really like to see my descendants, but it's a shame she's the only one. Oh well, it doesn't matter. Now I want to test my theory. Imagine you're carrying a staff in your hand, Naruto. Naruto nodded. He had been thinking about a staff and surprisingly one appeared. It had the same shape as Hagoromo's except that it was a complete ring with 3 on each side only separated by the handle of the staff. Ashura nodded and said, I knew it, you have a part of the 6 paths but not all of it, it's still blocked. That staff should theoretically be created by the Gudadamas, but doing it without that means you're on par with my father. Now I'll also need the previous swords you collected. I'll melt them down and create 2 new swords. You can keep the one you currently have and give it to someone else you consider worthy of wielding it. Naruto nodded and said, yes, I already know who will be worthy to wear it, my future apprentice. Ashura replied, as you wish, now I think it's time to wake up, you have a visitor in your room. Naruto nodded and left his mental landscape. When he woke up, he saw Hinata arranging some flowers, and upon seeing her, Naruto commented, Hinata-chan, is that you? Hinata turned around and realized that Naruto had woken up. Instinctively, she went to hug him. Naruto-kun, you've woken up. What a joy to see you awake. Naruto returned the hug, saying, yes, I'm awake now. By the way, how long have I been asleep? Hinata replied, you've been asleep for a week. I was very worried when Kakashi-sensei brought you here like this. Naruto nodded and comforted Hinata, saying, don't worry, I'm not going to die that easily. I have 2 dreams to fulfill. Remember? Hinata nodded and said, yes, I remember. And I know you'll never break your word. Naruto nodded and kissed Hinata, who returned the kiss. Then they separated and Naruto said, that's right, now get out of there. I felt you were creeping. Jiraiya appeared, entering the room through the window, saying, Gaki, you're very good at sensing people. I've already done my research and now we need to talk. In fact, Tsunade also wants to talk to you since Kakashi was also summoned and your friend Shikamaru is already there. By the way, greetings, Miss Hinata. Hinata replied, greetings Jiraiya-sama dash. Naruto commented, I understand, we'll go right away. Wait a moment while I change. Jiraiya nodded. Naruto went to the bathroom to change. He took 2 minutes and then came out ready. First of all, he addressed Hinata saying, Hinata-chan, I have to go. I'll come see you when I'm done. Hinata nodded in response. Okay, see you later, Naruto-kun. With a light kiss, he said goodbye and then left the room. Jiraiya just wrote everything down in his book. Oh yes, pure gold. Naruto approached, placing his hand on his back and said, we're leaving Erosenin and put that away before you get beaten up for using it. They left in a flash of orange. Hokage's office. Tsunade, who was there with Sarutobi, had Shikamaru, the leader of the recovery team, and Kakashi, who was with Naruto in front of her. Then, after an orange flash, the blonde man appeared with Jiraiya. Tsunade wasn't surprised. She was used to it. Then she began. Okay, we're all here now, so let's begin. I've heard Shikamaru's report. Kakashi, now yours. Kakashi nodded and began to give his report. Hokage-sama, we completed the mission perfectly. We defeated Raiga thanks to Naruto's wind jutsus. He has great mastery in their use. Then we helped with the village repairs and returned. But on the way, ninjas from IWA appeared looking for you-know-who, but we quickly dispatched them. That would be all for the assigned mission. After searching for Sasuke's recovery team, we first found Choji in critical condition, on the verge of death. Fortunately, Naruto, using his new abilities, managed to heal Choji and defeat the enemy. We then continued onward and found Niji on the brink of death. As before, Naruto managed to heal him and defeat the enemy. We continued onward and found Kiba badly injured along with his Ninken and the Tsunade ninja who was fighting. Naruto healed Kiba and defeated his opponent using the summoning jutsu. Then we advanced and found Shikamaru with the Tsunade ninja. They were fighting, but Naruto grabbed her and killed her. Finally, we went after Lee, who was with the Tsunade ninja, but he had died at the hands of the enemy. Naruto used an unknown resurrection technique and proceeded to face the last enemy. This one was very powerful. Not even I could have beaten him. Naruto, using his visual power and along with the wood element, managed to defeat him by trapping him in a mini-moon and sending him to the sky, and that would be all. Tsunade nodded and said, "Okay, thanks Kakashi and Naruto. Explain everything you did so it all makes sense." Naruto nodded and replied, "Okay, first of all, I've used all 6 paths of the Rinnegan. I'll list them in the order I used them: Asura Path, Preta Path, Animal Path, Naraka Path, and Deva Path. The first one allows me to use mechanized things and gives me great strength. With that, I defeated him. Then, in the second one, I used chakra absorption to defeat the enemy. In the third one, I used the summoning jutsu to defeat one, and Niji helped me with the second one. I killed the fourth one quickly with the King of Hell. I tried to get information but only got a little, except that on that day Orochimaru gave them something powerful that increased their power, and that was demonstrated in the last one, which was very powerful. Even using the power of gravity, I did little. Not even the Raisin Shuriken could finish him off. Only by using the wood element was I able to fight him, and I had to seal him in the Chibaku Tensei and send him into space, otherwise it would never end." Tsunade nodded and said, "Okay, now Naruto, how did you learn all that? I doubt that pervert taught you anything." Naruto replied, "Well, Erosenin did teach me something along the way, but regarding the other matter, I had another teacher and I want to meet you. He will explain many things to you, including my transformation." Naruto took out a special scroll, unfolded it, and making a single hand seal, said, "Fuin Jutsu, blood clone summoning." A cloud of smoke appeared and Ashura appeared, saying, "Ah, Naruto, I was just reading about the current story. Well, nice to meet you all. I'm Ashura Otsutsuki, the son of the Sage of 6 Paths, or as you know him, the Rakuto Sannin." Tsunade, who had heard her name, commented, "Ashura Otsutsuki, the predecessor of my grandfather Hashirama, how is it possible that you are here?" Jiraiya, who was observing him closely, commented, "You're real. It's not an illusion or anything. So explain to us how you got here." Sarutobi and Kakashi just watched, and Shikamaru commented, "Excuse me, but I'm leaving. This is getting too complicated, and I've had enough action for today." As he walked towards the exit, he was attracted by Naruto using his Deva path, saying, "Where are you going? I still remember you almost ruined everything just because your mission didn't go well." Shikamaru just grimaced and reluctantly continued saying, "Problematic Blondie, you already owe me 2. But still, thank you. Because of you I managed to react and see everything differently." Naruto nodded and Ashura continued speaking. "Well, where do I begin? I think it'll be from the beginning so you understand. A long time ago, my father and his brother defeated their mother, Kaguya Otsutsuki, because she was using the Ten Tails, a mindless creature of destruction. My father couldn't tolerate her actions against humanity, and together with his brother Hamura Otsutsuki, they sealed her in what we see today, the moon. The empty shell of the Ten Tails is also sealed there, since my father, using the power of creation, created the 9-tailed beasts by dividing the Ten Tails chakra, or as you know them, the Bijou. After that, Hamura went to the moon to take care of his mother and watch over the empty shell of the Ten Tails. My father at that time became the Sage of the 6 Paths. He traveled the world and created chakra. He hoped that everyone would be connected through it, and he called it Ninshu. When he finished his journey, he turned the place where he lived into the headquarters of Ninshu. In time, he had 2 sons, the elder being Indra Otsutsuki and me, the younger Ashura Otsutsuki. My brother was very friendly and always helpful. He was very talented in Ninshu, creating jutsu and hand signs. My father watched him all the time, but something happened and Indra awakened the Sharingan. From that moment on, everything changed. Indra became very distant. Those who loved him began to distance themselves, and he also became very strict, causing them to fear him. Years passed and nothing changed. Everything got worse. There was a moment when my father entrusted us with a task: to destroy the remains of the Shinju, the divine tree from which the Jubi was born. For this, we both went in two directions. We had to go to the villages and find a solution to their problems. My brother didn't take long, but it took me a year, but I succeeded. When I returned, I was accompanied by a group of people due to the bonds I made, and I transmitted Ninshu to them. Then Indra and I were waiting for our father's decision regarding the successor of Ninshu. Everyone thought he would choose Indra, but it was the opposite. He chose me. My brother got upset and left. My father gave me the power of the Sage of the Six Paths. Night fell and we were all celebrating. But my brother appeared in a rage for not being chosen. He attacked the headquarters and I had to defend everything we had built. Indra had the Mangekyo Sharingan. His power was immense, and even using the Six Paths Sage mode, I couldn't face him. My father, along with everyone else, used the Ninshu connection to give me their power, and that's how I was able to use the wood release and defeat my brother. Years passed, and Indra appeared, threatening to reincarnate again to destroy everything that had once been built. My father warned me, and I also decided to reincarnate to stop my brother. Thus, he created what you know as ninjutsu, corrupting the name of Ninshu, and I created the Senju. Thus began the fight between the Uchiha and Senju. Then I died, and my brother did too, but not our souls. We were reincarnated. We didn't possess either of them. They only acquired our ideals and abilities. Naruto's predecessor was your grandfather Hashirama Senju. I reincarnated as him before, and Indra as Uchiha Madara. Destiny will always bring me together with Indra, and now is no exception. Indra's transmigrant is gone. Well, although I wish he had been rescued, it doesn't matter. For now, Naruto must prepare himself since he is the transmigrant of my soul. Yes, he is my reincarnation. When he met my father, he gave him much of his power, literally. Now Naruto only needs to awaken the Six Paths Sage mode, and he will be the new Sage of Six Paths. I will help him awaken it, but not now. It will be in 3 years. He is now the new successor of Ninshu, the one I chose, and the reason why I am here even I don't know. I deduce that thanks to Naruto's mastery of his natural chakra and the power bestowed upon him by my father, this is what happened. Well, that would be my entire explanation. There was silence for a few seconds. Jiraiya was the first to speak. I see, so if you analyzed it correctly, Naruto is your reincarnation and the one who just left recently is the reincarnation of your brother. Ashura nodded and said, "That's right. Indra decided to reincarnate as Uchiha Sasuke." Jiraiya commented, "Then we must bring him back. If he grows strong, he could threaten everyone." Ashura commented, "Don't worry, as I said before, fate will bring us together again. But if you want to look for it, go ahead." Jiraiya nodded and said, "Well, if Tsunade won't say anything, then I'll say it." Jiraiya approached Naruto and crouched down to his level. Then, touching his shoulder, said, "Naruto, I plan to take you on a training journey for 3 years. I would like to teach you things that only your father knows and refine your Fuinjutsu, while also training your affinities and the Hiraishin. Minato left me many things and I want you to learn all of that. What do you say? Also, I would like to make up for lost time with my godson." Naruto, with his usual smile, said, "I accept. I'd also like to spend time with you and well, it will help me learn everything I'll need." Jiraiya nodded and said, "Very well then, in 2 weeks we will leave. We must prepare you for the future. You have power, no doubt, but if you don't know how to use it, it wouldn't make sense to have so much potential only to waste it." Ashura replied, "I couldn't have said it better myself. Naruto, pass me those swords. I'll have them ready at the forge in a week. And since we're talking about travel, I'd like Naruto to go to the old Ninshu headquarters. There are many useful things there, and he can learn many things in various jutsu. Also, along the way he can teach Ninshu again. It will be difficult but not impossible. He's already studied it, and I have no problem giving him the necessary information so that everyone can learn it." Tsunade, who had recovered after processing everything, commented, "Okay, I have no problem with that. I'll take care of the council along with Sarutobi-sensei and Jiraiya. I hope you accomplish a lot with Naruto these next 3 years. I don't know what to say about all this. I can only say that you should guide Naruto in everything. Ashura nodded and said, "Don't worry, he already has the knowledge he needs. I was the one who taught him everything he knows. Kenjutsu, his Rinnegan, his knowledge, his wind jutsus, and his wood element. I'll make many copies about Ninshu and give them to Naruto so he can pass them on to you." Tsunade nodded, saying, "Okay. Anyone who wants to comment?" Sarutobi commented, "Well, this clears up a lot of things, but what about the new symbol on his forehead? Is it some kind of side effect?" Ashura shook his head and said, "No, as I said before, my father went too far in giving him his chakra. Now when he awakens the senjutsu of the six paths, he will become the new sage of the six paths, or to shorten it, the Rakuto Sannin. That symbol on his forehead is what represents him." Sarutobi nodded. The rest who were listening just absorbed the information, and Tsunade commented, "Okay, if there's nothing else, then this is settled. Naruto, I have high hopes for you. I trust you'll do the right thing." Naruto, giving his usual smile, said, "Of course, Bachan, I'll take care of it." Tsunade nodded and everyone left, except Sarutobi and Jiraiya. Then Jiraiya commented, "This is what the great wise toad told me before I came here." He said, "Jiraiya, I have a new prophecy for you. The boy you were going to train will be found in the most unexpected place. As I mentioned before, he will be everyone's salvation. And now I'll add this. He will become a protector god of the world, the new sage of the six paths. He will change the world by transmitting ancient, lost knowledge. Find him, Jiraiya, and teach him everything you know." Jiraiya nodded and said, "Yes, and I think I know who he is, the son of my former student, Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki. He possesses the Rinnegan but with 6 tomo dash." The great wise toad replied, "Then you know what to do." Jiraiya nodded. "That's what he told me. I never thought Naruto was the child of prophecy. He was so close and I didn't realize it. Now that I know, I will guide him to be an excellent person." Tsunade nodded and said, "I hope so, Jiraiya, and don't turn him into a pervert, or I'll personally cut off what makes you a man." Jiraiya nodded and said, "Don't worry, Tsunadeheim. My godson has a great future and I'll be there to see it." 2 weeks later, 2 weeks passed, and Ashura forged the new dual swords called Twin Blades of the Sun. He gave them to Naruto and told him they would have time to train later. Then he prepared a bunch of scrolls containing ancient Ninshu knowledge and sent Naruto to give them to Tsunade. When he did, she received them and Naruto left. During that time, he and Sarutobi presented him to the council. They hesitated but then agreed, and the teaching was accepted both at the academy and for the current shinobi. Now Naruto is at the gates of Konoha, ready to leave. Hinata was there, saying, "Naruto-kun, I'll see you again in 3 years. I'll get stronger too and then we can be together again." Naruto nodded and said, "Of course, when I return I will keep my promise." Databeo dash. They hugged and shared a goodbye kiss. Jiraiya wasted no time and took notes on everything. This will sell quite well. Tsunade, Sarutobi, Kakashi, and all the other sensei were there. They said goodbye to Naruto, who returned their greetings and then left to join Jiraiya. He had 3 years to train and practice all his new skills and refine his fuinjutsu. He made sure to bring the necessary equipment. In these 3 years, he aimed to reach level 15. He was already level 10, so he only needed to reach the Uzumaki level. He also planned to create antennas to extend his communication network. In his free time, he spoke with Itachi and explained what had happened. Itachi responded with an okay. With all that, he only hoped that in this time, he would manage to do what he hadn't done before. Save the people he couldn't before. To be continued. Chapter 12. The Two Sons, The Awakening and Return to Konoha. 3 years have passed since Naruto left with Jiraiya. In that time, many things happened. Konoha managed to recover from the invasion, and now they live peacefully. Naruto and Jiraiya accomplished many things. During their journey, they designed an antenna capable of amplifying the signal of the communicators, which they then placed in strategic locations. They also traveled to the smaller villages so that Naruto could help them and teach them the importance of Ninshu. Thanks to Ashura's knowledge, he managed to convince the people that chakra is what unites everyone, and that this bond is called Ninshu. This was the case in every village they visited. Naruto wasted no time and trained, preparing fire and earth jutsus thanks to Jiraiya who taught him. Throughout the first year, he studied level 11 and 12 fuinjutsu, taking him 6 months for each level. The time was like that because they were always moving. Jiraiya also taught him about the space-time of Fuinjutsu and the techniques created with the Hiraishin. In the second year, they continued advancing in more villages. It was going to be difficult in the other elemental nations, so they waited. It took them 2 months to advance through the last small villages of the Land of Fire. Then Ashura guided him to the ancient temple that had once been the headquarters of Ninshu. When they arrived, there was nothing there. They simply had to break through the floor, and there it was, all buried. When Ashura saw all that, it reminded him of the years he had lived there. Naruto went inside to look and saw the dust covering everything. Ashura told him that he was going to train there, so he had to clean everything. Using his clones, Naruto began to clean everything. Jiraiya explored the place. He never thought there was anything like this hidden. After he finished, Ashura told him to go to the library, where everything he needed to learn was. Naruto nodded and went there. When he arrived, the same thing happened. Everything was dusty. So he began to clean everything. He knew that he was going to train there, so he took great care to leave everything spotless. At that time, Naruto was 15 years old. He only had 1 year left to finish his training. The last year arrived, and Naruto advanced a lot in that time. He was already level 14 of Fuinjutsu. Together with Jiraiya, he developed the advanced space-time techniques of the Hiraishin. Also, from the library, Naruto learned the other elements to such a degree that he only required 1 hand seal and no longer needed to make hand seals for the wind style. Months passed, and Naruto was studying the last level of Fuinjutsu. He was working on a teleportation of things based on the Hiraishin. Together with Jiraiya, they conducted tests. Ashura taught him the double-sword Kenjutsu style, allowing him to wield both twin swords. He could also perform a jutsu without hand seals, but its limitation was 3 minutes, as the swords doubled the power of any element and only responded to Naruto. October 9th arrived, just 1 day before Naruto's 16th birthday. There were only 6 months left before he returned to Konoha, yet he still spoke with Jiraiya. "Erosenin, tomorrow I want you to open the seal dash." Jiraiya nodded, saying, "Very well, tomorrow will be your birthday. You will speak with the fox to obtain his power." Naruto replied, "Yes, as I told you, he is my friend and we had reached this agreement, and he is also willing to collaborate with me, you don't have to worry." Jiraiya replied, "I trust you, Naruto. Look how you've grown in these years, you're a real man now. Tomorrow I'll have a delicious meal ready." Naruto nodded and then began preparing for tomorrow. Day after, Naruto was standing next to Jiraiya and Ashura. It was Naruto's 16th birthday. Then Jiraiya commented, "Are you ready, Naruto?" Naruto commented, "Wait, I have to do something first. I'll let you know when I'm done." Jiraiya nodded and Naruto entered his mindscape. Naruto's mindscape. Naruto was standing in front of the cages that separated him from Kurama, so he said, "Are you ready, Naruto?" Naruto nodded. He had prepared a lot for this moment, so he said, "Yes, it's time." Naruto approached the seal, and when he touched it to remove it, a hand stopped him, pulling him away. It was a shinobi with yellow hair and sky-blue eyes. He wore a jounin vest with his headband tied around his forehead, a blue suit under the vest, and a robe with a flame design at the bottom and the kanji for 4th written on it. It was the 4th Hokage, Minato Namikaze. Naruto looked at him. He had missed him for a long time. "Naruto, what are you doing? Why do you want to release the Kyuubi? And what happened to your appearance and eyes?" Naruto approached him and punched him in the stomach, saying, "That's what happens when you seal the Kyuubi inside your son." Then he hugged him. "And this is for giving me my name, Tsunade." Minato hugged him too, saying, "So you know Hassan? Sorry for putting this burden on you, but I couldn't ask someone else to do it if I couldn't do it myself." Naruto nodded, saying, "You don't need to worry, Tsunade, I get along well with the Kyuubi. Well, his name is Kurama." Then they both broke apart from the hug and Minato placed the palm of his hand on Naruto's head. "Look how you've grown, son. I trust you've found the gift I left for you." Naruto replied, "Yes, Gigi, sorry, the 3rd Hokage gave me everything, now I know all your techniques." Minato nodded, saying, "I see, so Konoha has fully recovered. Isn't that right?" Naruto nodded and said, "Yes, although I don't know now since I'm traveling with Jiraiya-sensei, but we'll be back in Konoha in 6 months." Minato replied, "So now Jiraiya-sensei is training you. I see you're in good hands." Minato begins to become transparent. Naruto noticed it and Minato commented, "It's time to say goodbye, Naruto. I trust you to use your power for good. Tell me, what is your dream?" Naruto responded with his characteristic smile. "I have two dreams. The first is to become Hokage like you, Tsunade, and the second is to marry the woman I love who awaits my return to Konoha." Minato nodded and gave his last words. "I'd like to talk more, but I've reached my limit. I entrust you with the safety of Konoha. I know you'll one day become Hokage and make the woman you love happy. Goodbye, Naruto." Minato disappeared and Naruto shed a tear, saying, "I will do it, Tsunade, I will do it." Naruto wiped away his tear and looked at Kurama, saying, "Well, the moment has arrived, Kurama." Kurama commented, "Yes, you had a nice meeting with your father. Now it's time to break the seal and talk to her." Naruto nodded and stepped out of his mental landscape for a few moments, opening his eyes and saying, "It is time, Erosenin. Open the seal while I meditate again." Jiraiya nodded and Naruto returned to his mental landscape. Naruto had removed the paper from the cage. He was just waiting for the cage to open. Then it happened, it slowly opened. When it finished, Kurama pushed the bars open happily because nothing would restrict him anymore. Finally, freedom, although it didn't last long because some golden chains bound him. "Ah, Naruto, tell him to let me go." From the hallway, a red-haired woman appeared. Naruto recognized her immediately. It was Kushina Uzumaki. She approached saying, "You furball, don't you dare attack my son." Suddenly she felt someone hug her. When she looked, it was Naruto who hugged her. "It's good to see you, Kazan," he commented, and Kushina also hugged him, saying, "My son, my Naruto, look at you, you're all grown up now. I'd like to talk, but first I'll help you get the power of the furball." Naruto shook his head, saying, "Calm down, Kazan. Kurama won't do anything to me, we're friends." Kushina raised an eyebrow and said, "Kurama? The furball has a name." Naruto nodded in response. "Yes, and don't worry, you can let him go, and if he tries anything, I can tie him up myself." Naruto showed off his own orange chains. Kushina was impressed by that and Naruto commented, "Just like you, I also have the adamantine chains and I enjoy using them in combat, Databeo dash." Kushina hugged Naruto tighter, saying, "Databeo? It's obvious you're my son, Databane dash." Kushina released Kurama and then looked at Naruto, saying, "Naruto, can you explain your change and your eyes? Because your eyes changed?" Naruto began to explain to her about his encounter with the Sage of Six Paths, about how he was the transmigrant of Ashura's soul, the sage's son. He also told her that he now had a girlfriend and that she filled the void he had before. He told her about his fights, his abilities, his mastery of Fuinjutsu since he was level 14, and his Kekkei Genkai. Kushina was amazed by all of that, saying, "Wow, you're amazing, Databane dash." Naruto nodded in response. "Thank you, Kazan dash." Kushina commented, "Naruto, I'm amazed that you're following in the footsteps of the Uzumaki clan. You're a level 14 master, a master of Kenjutsu, and you use the adamantine chains. I'm so proud of you, Databane." Naruto nodded again and said, "Thank you, Kazan. It makes me happy to hear all that." "Databeo dash?" Kushina asked. "Tell me, what is your dream, Naruto?" Naruto replied, "I have two dreams. The first is to be a Hokage like Tsunade, and the second is to marry the woman I love." Kushina commented, "So you have the same dream as me and Minato? I'm glad and I know you'll achieve it. And tell me, who is the woman you love?" Naruto gave his foxy grin and commented, "Her name is Hinata Hyuga, and I already gave her the ring you left me. That's our promise to get married." Kushina nodded and said, "Itomi's daughter, I see. I know you'll make her very happy." Kushina began to become transparent and asked Naruto again, "Tell me, Naruto, how do you consider me and Minato?" Naruto replied, "You two are the two suns that light my way, because I will always have you in my heart." Kushina nodded and said, hugging Naruto and shedding tears because of what she had heard, "Thank you, Naruto, for being born, for allowing us to be your parents. You are our greatest pride and I know you will be a good man. Goodbye, Naruto dash." Kushina disappeared and Naruto answered, "Thank you, Kazan. I won't disappoint you." Shedding tears as she heard her mother's last words, she remained like that for a few seconds and then wiped herself, looking at Kurama and saying, "It's time, Kurama. I was finally able to talk to my parents to tell them how I felt. It's time to link our chakras." Kurama nodded and said, "Very well, it's time, Naruto. It's time for you to regain that power from before and face the dangers that threaten this world. They both began to meditate. After a few seconds, a golden aura surrounded them both and Naruto emerged from his mental landscape. A surge of chakra was felt emanating from Naruto. Suddenly, he was surrounded by a golden cloak. Naruto once again entered Kurama mode at its maximum power. Jiraiya was surprised to see it. So this is when someone perfectly controls the Kyuubi's chakra. Naruto nodded and said, "Yes, I think so, although it's the first time I've used it." He lied. He wasn't going to say that he had used it before. It was better that way. This all feels incredible. Ashura, who saw everything, commented, "All right, Naruto, it's time for the second part. Time to awaken the six paths senjutsu." Naruto nodded, and Ashura extended his hand, which Naruto also extended. As they shook hands, Naruto felt a new power coursing through him. Suddenly, Kurama mode shifted. 9 black orbs floated behind Naruto, and in his free hand, he held a black staff with a complete ring at the tip and 6 more rings surrounding it, 3 on each side, separated by the staff's handle. Naruto once again attained Six Paths Sage mode. Jiraiya was astonished to witness such power. "This is beyond my imagination. The power of the Sage of the Six Paths himself, what intensity." When Naruto had everything alternated to switch to Kurama mode, the orbs and the staff disappeared. Then he deactivated it, returning to normal. "All right, Naruto, you have everything now. There's nothing that can stop you. Rest for today and tomorrow you'll start training." Ashura commented and Naruto nodded. He thought, "Before, I couldn't handle Kurama's power and the Six Paths Senjutsu well, but now it's different. I'll prepare for the challenges from now on." 6 months later. In those 6 months, Naruto learned a lot, managing to finish the last book of Fuinjutsu and becoming a level 15 master. He also managed to develop his new invention, object teleportation, by combining even and odd numbers, which he achieved together with Jiraiya. Also during this time he managed to create 4 new variants of the Rasengan, 1 for each element except wind. He trained his Kurama mode and the Sage mode of the Six Paths. Ashura explained to him that if he loses an orb, he only has to recreate it with the power of the creation of all things. Now Naruto together with Jiraiya and Genta. Yes, the little one, or should I say the big wolf, grew a lot in these 3 years. Naruto took good care of him, so Ashura made him a nice outfit. He still wore his scarf and the Konoha headband, no longer around his neck, but on his forehead. He wore a cloak with 9 Magatama, 3 per row, and on top the Rinnegan symbol. Ashura made it for him to wear. Now the 3 of them were returning to Konoha. Naruto was on top of Genta while writing everything down in his notebook. He wrote everything down in his notebook, so he already knew what his first move would be. Then they continued moving forward. When they arrived, Izumo and Kotetsu, the Eternal Guardians, recognized them. Jiraiya told Naruto to go ahead while he signed everything. Naruto nodded and, riding on Genta, they went to the top of a building. "I'm back in Konoha." He shouted to see if anyone would hear him. Konoha didn't change much in these 3 years. All 11 Konoha rookies were promoted to Chunin, leaving Uchiha Sasuke, the deserter, as the only genin. Then Naruto saw Sakura and went down to greet her. "Hello Sakura, it's been a while." Sakura looked at him and said, "Naruto, you're back from your trip." In these 3 years she trained with Tsunade, becoming her disciple. Her attitude changed a lot. She stopped being the girl who fought for everything. Now she behaved at least. "Yes, I'm back and now I'm stronger than ever." After that, 3 young people appeared whom Naruto recognized as Moegi, Udon, and Konohamaru. "The boss is back," Konohamaru commented, to which Naruto nodded. "Yes, and Konohamaru, I have a gift for you." Naruto gave him a scroll and he saw that it was a storage scroll. When he injected chakra into it, a sword emerged from a cloud of smoke. "That's my old sword, Luminous. I'm giving it to you because I want you to be my apprentice. Do you accept?" Konohamaru didn't believe it. He didn't think about it and nodded, saying, "Of course, boss, I accept." Naruto nodded and Moegi and Udon, seeing the scene, said at the same time, "We want it too." Naruto just chuckled, but Konohamaru added, "Boss, when did we start?" Naruto commented, "First I have to do a few things and when I'm finished we'll begin." Konohamaru nodded. Then Jiraiya appeared and said, "Come on Naruto, we have to go see Tsunade. Sarutobi-sensei is already there waiting for us, we have to hurry. Naruto nodded and said, well, see you guys in Sakura. It was a pleasure seeing you again. With that said, Jiraiya and Naruto, riding on Genta, headed towards the Hokage's office. Hokage's office. Tsunade was with Sarutobi waiting for Jiraiya, since today was the day of his return. He had notified her via communicator that he was returning today, and Tsunade replied that she would wait for him along with Sarutobi. After a few minutes, Jiraiya arrived through the window saying, hello, I'm back. Naruto appeared in a flash of orange. When they saw him, they were astonished. Naruto had grown. His clothes were the same except for the 2 swords he carried on his back. Then Naruto commented, hi, I'm back. How is everyone? Tsunade commented, Naruto, look at you, you've grown so much, everything is fine. Since everyone else has also grown and become Chunin and Niji became Jonin, Naruto nodded and Jiraiya then commented, Tsunadeheim, well, aren't you going to ask anything else? Tsunade shook her head and said, no, I trust that you managed to teach him enough. Now what interests me is what he has learned in this time. Jiraiya smiled and said, you'll have to see it for yourself. Jiraiya nodded to Naruto, and he understood. Where do I begin? Oh yes dash. Naruto entered Kurama mode, and Tsunade was amazed when she saw him, witnessing so much light and power. That's the Kyuubi's chakra. Have you already mastered it completely? Naruto nodded and said, dash one more thing is missing dash. Naruto switched to 6 paths sage mode. Both Tsunade and Sarutobi were amazed. Naruto continued speaking. This is the 6 paths senjutsu. Literally no one can stop me in this form, but I won't use it unless it's in an emergency. So I'll just stick to Kurama mode. Naruto deactivated Sage mode and returned to normal, then continued talking. I'm also level 15 in Fuinjutsu, I've mastered several jutsus, and we've expanded the communicator network. It can now be used outside the land of fire. I've also designed something new together with Erosenin. Naruto took out a scroll, opened it, and showed his new invention. This is called the Object Teleporter. It's the same as the communicator, but the difference is that it can transport objects. Took time, but it was achieved. Tsunade nodded and said, okay, you'll show it to the council later. For now, I'll assign you to a team. Team 8 will no longer be available since Kurenai can no longer remain in the shinobi ranks. Naruto raised an eyebrow at that and said, what happened to Kurenai-sensei? Tsunade answered him, Naruto, she is pregnant. Although she is only a month along, she decided to leave the shinobi ranks to take care of her future son or daughter dash. Naruto nodded and asked, and the others, where are Shino and Hinata-chan? Tsunade commented, they are already Chunin, they can do missions normally without needing a sensei, but we will make a change. You will be assigned to Kakashi's team since they are missing 2 members. Given that you were absent and Kiba was the only one available as a tracker, so he was temporarily assigned to Shino and Hinata's team. They're on a mission now, they'll be back in a week. Also, Kakashi asked you to be on his team because they're short-staffed. You can rest now. Come here tomorrow at 7 a.m. to meet your new team. Then you can return to your old team as the new captain. With that said, you can go, you must be tired. Naruto nodded and left in an orange flash. Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Sarutobi were in the office. Then Tsunade commented, that kid really has godlike power and yet he acts like nothing happened. Sarutobi nodded and said, that's Tsunade for you, even though he's still the same as always, even with the power of a god he hasn't changed. He's still the same as always. That shows that if you have everything at your fingertips, your attitude will never change. Tsunade nodded and Jiraiya commented, I have faith that he can change the world. I saw it while we were traveling. He changed many people and I know he will do it in other nations as well. Tsunade nodded and said, I believe he will soon occupy this seat. If he continues to grow like this, he will. He has the affection of all the people, the other shinobi respect him, the clan leaders accept him, the civilian council too. The other 2 counselors, Hamura and Koharu, have begun to see him as a good thing. Yes, if something happens to me, suggest him as the next Hokage. I know he can handle it, and I also have faith that he can do many things for the village. Sarutobi and Jiraiya nodded. Naruto went to the place where he had eaten his first meal, Ichiraku ramen. He spent the whole day there. He had plenty of money, so he wasn't worried. Then he went home to rest and think about what to do next. In the land of the wind, 2 people wearing straw hats were walking, they were talking. Ah, there's Tsunade will be there soon. Okay, let's finish quickly, I want to do other things dash. Okay, then I'll go, wait for me here while I capture the Jinchuriki dash. Just don't make me wait too long, Deidara. There's a routine to follow. Calm down, Master Sasori. I'll finish quickly. This place will know that art is an explosion. Deidara commented and Sasori responded. Tisk, do it quickly and don't delay. Deidara flew over on his bird to capture the Jinchuriki who carried the one-tailed bijou. To be continued. Chapter 13, S-Rank Mission, Itachi and Naruto, and Training Demonstration. Naruto was waking up. The night before he ate a lot of ramen and was literally stuffed. He went home, showered, and went to sleep. When he woke up, he remembered that he had to meet with Kakashi-sensei today. He got ready in his usual outfit and went to the Hokage Tower, but he remembered what Kakashi used to be like, so he took his time. He ate his breakfast, and when he finished, he called Gunma. Come on, everyone, it's time to go. Genta stood beside him, and they vanished in an orange flash. Hokage's office. Tsunade is known for being patient, but not that patient, and Naruto arrived saying, Hi, sorry for being late. We encountered many crows on the way and took the longer route. Then I remembered I had my marker here, so I came as quickly as possible. Naruto dodged a book that broke through the wall. Tsunade commented angrily, Make me wait again and it'll hit you on the head. Naruto swallowed and nodded, and Tsunade, sitting back down, began to speak. Okay, Naruto, as I told you yesterday, you're going to be on Team Kakashi for now, so let's see what mission I can assign you. I know, a C-rank one to start with. While Tsunade was looking for missions to give them, Shizune entered the office desperately, screaming, Tsunade-sama, we have a problem. An SOS message arrived from the Sand Village. Kazekage Gaara was captured by an unknown group wearing black cloaks with red clouds. They request our help immediately dash. Upon hearing that, Naruto turned to look at Shizune and asked, When that message arrived dash? Shizune replied, Just a few moments ago. That's why I came as quickly as possible to warn you. Naruto nodded and looked at Tsunade. She understood quickly. All right, Team Kakashi. I'm assigning you an S-rank mission. You must depart immediately for Tsunade. Help them with whatever is needed and recover the Kazekage. Depart immediately. Kakashi nodded, then looked at Naruto and said, You would do the honors, Naruto. Naruto nodded, climbed on top of Genta, touched Kakashi and Sakura on the shoulder, and the three of them disappeared in an orange flash. Gates of Konoha. Team Kakashi appeared at the gates of Konoha. Sakura was a little dizzy. It was the first time she had felt the Flying Thunder God technique. Then Kakashi commented, Okay, you know where we're going. I'll be the team leader, and Naruto will be the sub-leader. If I'm incapacitated, he'll be in charge. Now let's go immediately. With that said, Team Kakashi departed immediately, and Naruto thought, just like the first time, incredible. Naruto commented to the others, Well, we have something to know about what we're up against. Kakashi argued, something, according to Shizune's description, must be Akatsuki. They also appeared in Konoha a while ago, looking for Naruto. I think their target is the bijou that the Jinchuriki contain. I don't know why, but it can't be for anything good. Sakura asked in surprise, Naruto, since when are they chasing you? Naruto replied, I don't know, I ran into them a while ago, but it was Jiraiya-sensei who helped me against them. Sakura nodded and Kakashi commented, It's normal for Jiraiya-sama, you are like a son. He has taken care of you during this time. The reason why Akatsuki no longer pursued you is because Jiraiya-sama was there, protecting you from any danger dash. Naruto nodded and said, I know, now I am capable of facing them. I am ready to face the dangers that threaten the world. Kakashi nodded, then commented, Okay then, now we need to get to Tsunade. We'll be there in at least 2 days. Naruto commented, We can use the Flying Thunder God technique, but we need to be close to use it. A while ago, Jiraiya-sensei and I were there. I left a marker there just in case. When we're within range, we can get there immediately. Kakashi nodded, and so they advanced towards their objective. Elsewhere, 2 people were walking in the direction of the hideout where the extraction would take place. Okay, let's hurry. In 2 days we'll reach the land of rivers and the extraction will take 3 days. Deidara, be on the lookout for any danger. Sasori commented and Deidara nodded. 1 day later, Team Kakashi was advancing. They had reached the borders of the land of fire. They were ready to enter the land of wind. Then Naruto felt his marker. Then he said, "We're in range, we'll use the Hiraishin, get ready dash." Naruto touched Kakashi and Sakura's shoulder, and they disappeared in an orange flash. Tsunade was a village surrounded by sand, a natural defense against enemies. Those who could use the magnetic element could control the sand and give themselves a huge advantage. The only ones who could use it were the 3rd Kazekage, the 4th Kazekage, and the new 5th Kazekage, Gaara. Naruto was a close friend of Gaara. After they reunited 2 years ago, Naruto showed him the true meaning of Ninshu. Gaara understood and promised to teach it to everyone in Tsunade. Naruto agreed and gave him everything he needed to implement it in a curriculum. When he became Kazekage, he decided to apply this new knowledge to the next generation. It took time, but he succeeded, even managing to teach the current ninjas. That night, he was attacked by a mad bomber. Gaara prioritized the protection of all the villagers. He showed that he was no longer the same as before, but someone who would fight to defend his home against any threat. Even so, he lost the battle and was captured. His brothers immediately requested help from Konoha to fight against this threat. Kankuro followed them, fought and lost, and was also poisoned with an unknown substance. Temari was worried because she didn't think this would happen. Then, in an orange flash, Team Kakashi appeared. Temari was surprised when they appeared out of nowhere. Then Naruto asked, "Temari, please inform us of the current situation." Temari commented upon hearing this. "We were recently attacked by some unknown shinobi. Now my brother needs urgent medical attention. He has more information dash." Sakura commented, "Take me to where he is now, I can heal him dash." Temari led the way, followed by Kakashi and Naruto. They arrived at a room where 2 elderly people were found. The older woman turned to look at the newcomers, and when she saw Kakashi, she immediately went at him screaming, "White Fang, it's you. Today I will take revenge for my children that you killed." Kakashi, who looked at her, just sighed, and Naruto, when he saw her going against his leader, used a new trick. He wanted to test it to see if it was effective. The older woman was about to strike, but stopped right there, held in midair. The other old man commented, "Chio, it's not the White Fang, he died years ago. Look at him closely. He looks similar, but he's not him." Chio looked at it closely and realized it wasn't the White Fang. She just started laughing and said, "I'm sorry, these days people think they can let me go." Naruto snapped his fingers and Chio was free. Kakashi guessed who was holding her up in the air. The only one in the group who could control gravity was Naruto, though he hadn't used any of it. He had tried limbo once, seeing it with Madara, but now that he'd used it, it just made him laugh. No one else could see the shadow but him. Then Sakura began healing Kankuro. It was going to take a while, and Naruto already knew how long it would take, so he left her. He could eliminate it in one blow, but he decided to wait. He didn't want to humiliate Tsunade's disciple. He simply sat down, took out his notebook, and began writing everything down. Naruto was wearing sunglasses. He didn't want to reveal his Rinnegan yet. Attracting the attention of Black Zetsu and Obito would only set off alarm bells. Day after, Sakura finished healing Kankuro, who informed them that one of those who took Gaara was Sasori of the Red Sand. Chio was astonished to hear that name. Her grandson was the one who caused this. Then she gave them a piece of clothing she had managed to obtain. Kakashi took it and gave it to Naruto, who, understanding, took it, smelled it, and immediately obtained his chakra signature. "Okay, I've got them, time to go." Team Kakashi was about to leave, but Granny Chio commented, "Wait, I'll come with you. I haven't seen my grandson in a long time, so it's time to pay him a visit." Kakashi nodded and then they all left. At that moment Naruto deduced something. According to the distance, they are 3 days from here. If we hurry, we will arrive dash. They all advanced until they reached Gaara and saved him. Location unknown. Sasori and Deidara arrived at a place where there were 8 holograms. Then one of them spoke. "Good job, now let's begin the sealing. It will take 3 days to completely seal Shikaku. So once started, we won't be able to stop until it's complete. Okay, let's begin." The voice that spoke was a person who had many piercings on his face, purple eyes with concentric circles around the pupil. They were the eyes of the Rinnegan. All the others were standing on the fingers of a statue that had 6 closed eyes and 3 open. From the mouth of the statue came out some blue dragons of chakra. They grabbed Gaara and began to extract a red chakra from him. 3 days later, Naruto and the others were moving forward. They were not far from their destination, but 2 people got in their way. Itachi and Kisame stood in front of them, blocking their path. Kakashi, who saw them, got on guard. The rest did too, except for Naruto, who looked at them, then commented, "Leave Itachi to me, take care of the other one. Be careful, his sword absorbs chakra." Kakashi nodded. Naruto saw Itachi and they both went to a private place, not to fight, but to talk. Itachi kept Naruto informed of everything. He told him about the current members of Akatsuki, about their hidden bases, and about the beginning of the capture of Bijou. He was surprised to learn that they had captured 3 and had already sealed them in a statue. Naruto knew what that thing was, but he didn't tell Itachi so he wouldn't suspect anything. He knew Itachi was Sasuke's cure, so he was going to do everything necessary to ensure he lived and could be by Sasuke's side and prevent him from going to the dark side, in addition to the advantage they would have in the 4th Shinobi World War. After they moved away, they began their conversation. "Hello, Itachi. It's been a while. Tell me how you've been." Itachi replied, "I've been doing well, Naruto-kun. Since you healed me, I felt much better, and now I need to tell you something. The leader of Akatsuki, Pain, plans to go after you himself. They're leaving you for last because you possess the Kyuubi, so I hope you've prepared yourself during these 3 years." Naruto nodded and said, "Yes, don't worry. Now we must talk about Sasuke. As you know, Orochimaru seeks to possess his body. Sasuke isn't stupid enough to let himself be possessed, so I imagine he will come looking for you." Itachi nodded in response. "Yes, I must pay for my crimes, and the best way is for him to finish me off. It's the only way to atone for my sins." Naruto shook his head and said, "No, there's another way. Tell him the truth about the Uchiha massacre. Explain why you did it and why you let him live. That's the only way you can atone for your sins. You have to live to protect him. He's neutral now, and if he's manipulated, he could do terrible things. So you need to be there to guide and protect him. You can return to Konoha and move on with your life, taking care of Sasuke. If you die, someone else might manipulate the truth, and Sasuke will be lost. So it's better that you live. Only then can you pay for your crimes." Itachi was thinking about Naruto's words. He smiled, knowing that he wasn't the only one who could defend his brother. Then he answered him, "You're right, I hadn't seen it that way. Now I'll go prepare everything. I trust you'll manage to stop Akatsuki. Sasuke will come looking for me, that's for sure, but I'll tell him the whole truth about why the Uchiha massacre happened and why I let him live. I owe you my life, Naruto. Now you have to go. The time to save the Kazekage is short. We'll see each other later." Naruto nodded and said, "Itachi, it's time for me to go. You've done so much defending Konoha from the shadows. It's time for the changing of the guard. I'll take care of any threats that arise from now on. Let me know when you have everything ready. I'll be waiting and will only intervene if something bad happens." Naruto gives him his 3-pronged kunai and Itachi receives it. "Before you run into Sasuke, call me. Just channel chakra and I'll sense it so I can come immediately. Well, it's time for me to go. Take care, Itachi." Naruto and Itachi shook hands, showing that their friendship would continue. Itachi was confident that Naruto would stop Akatsuki, so now he focused on preparing everything to meet with Sasuke. Naruto managed to convince Itachi not to commit suicide. Now all that remained was to rescue Gaara from Akatsuki's clutches. When he returned to the others, he saw that they had defeated a copy of Kisame, and Naruto commented, "I've already taken care of Itachi. Now let's continue, we're not far from the site." They all nodded and continued onward. They reached a mountain. The entrance was blocked and there was a seal on top. Naruto examined the seal and smiled. Making hand seals, he placed his hand on top and said, "Fuinjutsu, release of the 5 symbols dash." The kanji glowed and the paper disappeared. In other places, papers disappeared. Then Naruto unsheathed his sword and destroyed the rock that covered it. There were 2 people there. Naruto frowned, looked at Gaara's motionless body, and thought, they extracted the bijou from him, now it's time to act. I don't know if they'll be stronger than before, but I must stop them here and now. I look at the 2 of them and say, "You two, give me back Gaara's body." Deidara smiled and said, You want it? Come and get it, Jinchuriki of the QB dash. He enclosed Gaara's body in a white cocoon, then formed a white bird and flew away. When Naruto saw this, he commented, Kakashi-sensei, let's go for him, Sakura. Granny Chio take care of the other one. With the order given, they went to pursue Deidara. Naruto knew that Guy was a crazy bomber. Thanks to Itachi's information, he knew his abilities and his weakness, lightning. Knowing that, he prepared himself. It was time to demonstrate his training. He caught up to Deidara and jumped to be within his reach. Deidara saw him and threw some white balls at him, smiling and saying, I expected you to do something reckless. Now you'll find out that my art is an explosion. Katsu. An explosion erupted, but Naruto emerged unscathed. He drew his dual swords and prepared to attack. The twin swords of the sun, weapons created by Ashura Otsutsuki, melted down the previous Kiba swords and forged new ones from them. They were similar to the luminous sword, but the difference was the material. Ashura used an extra material, a part of the Gudadama. They had the attribute of being chakra conductors, performing jutsu without hand seals, and most importantly, they nullified jutsu thanks to having a part of the Gudadama. Naruto charged lightning chakra into his swords, then cut the bird. Deidara tried to make his bird explode, but he couldn't. The lightning chakra rendered his jutsu useless. Deidara created another bird and tried to grab the Kazekage, but a clone of Naruto caught him and took him away. Deidara grimaced and tried to counterattack, but Naruto waited for him and then again cut his bird, sending Deidara to the ground. TSK, that hurt, now you'll see, you'll know my art dash. Deidara began to swell up, but Naruto pierced him with his sword, nullifying the chakra buildup. Deidara, seeing this, said, What? How is that possible? If it was chakra accumulation, it wasn't my jutsu. Naruto replied, A good ninja keeps his tricks to himself. Deidara saw it and then melted. A clone escaped then, well, never mind Kakashi-sensei. Take care of Gaara, I'll go help the rest dash. Kakashi, who had caught up with him, nodded, and Naruto went to help the others. Sakura and Chio were fighting Sasori. He was a renowned puppeteer in Tsunade. After losing his parents, he felt alone. He lived with his grandmother, but still felt empty inside. He created 2 puppets that looked very much like his parents just to avoid feeling lonely. Years passed, and Sasori made puppets for everyone. He got used to always having to finish on time and deliver on the indicated date. He focused on the idea that true art is something lasting. That, for him, was his art. He became more interested and decided to create his human puppets. He started with his only friend, and with that began his defection with the idea of immortalizing everything he considers beautiful. He killed the 3rd Kazekage because he had tested something. When he turned him into a puppet, his jutsu, the steel element, continued. With that, he continued with many more people. Now he faces his grandmother, now a pink-haired girl. Grandma Chio, it's so nice to see you here. I've always wondered what you'd look like as one of my toys. Grandma Chio commented. Sasori, stop this, you weren't like this. You were a kind child who helped everyone. But your obsession with puppets must end. So you have 2 options. End this or I will be forced to kill you. Sasori laughed at what he heard and said, Dash, you're going to kill me, Grandma Chio. Look at yourself, you've already passed your prime. Now you're just an old woman who only talks nonsense. On the other hand, I stay young. Even if they destroyed my previous puppet, I can rebuild it. For me, art is something that always remains. That's why now I'll kill them and turn them into one more in my puppet collection. Both Grandma Chio and Sakura prepared to fight. Chio commented, You know, Sasori, a puppeteer is called a master because he controls many puppets at once. So I'll show you something I haven't done in a long time. Taking out a scroll, 10 puppets appeared, each one connected by a chakra thread to each of Granny Chio's fingers. Sasori laughed at this and said, Grandma Chio, if it were someone else, I'd be impressed. With those puppets, you managed to conquer a castle. On one hand, you're right, a puppeteer is called a master because of the number of puppets he controls. If with those 10 you conquered a castle, Sasori removed his Akatsuki cloak. His entire body was a puppet. He took out 5 scrolls, unfolded them, and many puppets emerged. 5,000 puppets if one were to count them. Opening a compartment in his chest, many chakra threads appeared, all of which joined together all the puppets. With these 5,000 puppets, I have conquered an entire city by myself. Sasori commented. Grandma Chio was amazed by the number of puppets she saw, but most importantly, she was amazed to see her grandson turned into a puppet. Look at you, Sasori, you are no longer human. What have you become? Your obsession is so great that you yourself have become a puppet. Sasori chuckled and said, No, I have immortalized my body. Now I will kill you and then you will be part of my collection. Sakura saw all the puppets. For a moment she backed away, but she mustered her courage and prepared for combat. It's time for you to die. Goodbye, Grandma Chio. With a movement, Sasori made all the puppets fire senbon needles. Both Chio and Sakura got ready, but a voice from elsewhere commented, Wind style, wind dome. A dome of wind surrounded Granny Chio and Sakura, and Naruto arrived in time to stop the puppeteer Sasori of the red sand. Sasori recognized him and said, Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, this is excellent. I will capture you and then make you part of my collection. Naruto looked at him bored and then saw the 5,000 puppets surrounding everyone. Sasori of the red sand, the master puppeteer of Akatsuki. Well, I'm going to put an end to this. Mounted on top of Genta, he prepared for his attack, saying, Without any manual seal, wind style, wind-cutting swords. Preparing his jutsu, he launched them against the puppets. He destroyed a few with just a touch. Sasori, who saw this, frowned. But out of the 5,000 puppets, he only destroyed 12. Naruto, without any hand seals, created many shadow clones. His signature move, 1,000 clones against all of Sasori's puppets. They all unsheathed the twin blades of the sun and rushed forward. The original stood in front of Granny Chio and Sakura, asking questions. You can take care of Sasori. I'll take care of the puppets. Now I'll continue with the attack. I'm leaving that in your hands. Then he left. Sasori didn't forget the rest. He separated 100 puppets from the rest to finish off Granny Chio and Sakura. Naruto continued with his attack. They had few clones left and still many enemy puppets. He saw that of the 4,888 puppets, there were only 2,000 remained. He smiled. It was time to try a new jutsu. The Rasengan, a jutsu created by the 4th Hokage, Minato Namikaze, was never fully completed, as he wanted to add an element to it. His son, Naruto, was the only one who managed to finish it, creating the Rasen Shuriken. Using the Rasengan as its core, he created it. During his 3-year journey, he developed several variations of each element. Water, which is not very destructive but has a good attack range. Earth, an attack that causes significant damage but only at medium range. Lightning, an attack that creates a chain of electricity around opponents. And finally, fire, an attack that devours everything in its path and incinerates the battlefield. Naruto knew he needed an attack that would destroy everything in one blow. He knew which one to use. In this time, he had perfected the Rasen Shuriken and managed to do it without the need for clones. Now he wasn't going to use that one, but he needed the other one. He readied both hands in front of him. A red Rasengan was ready. It grew and emanated a heat that if one approached, one would be burned instantly. When he finished, he threw it, saying, Fire style, Raseninus. The orb, emitting heat like the sun itself, was directed at the puppets. When it reached the center, it expanded, devouring everything in its path. Sasori watched as his puppets were literally incinerated by the attack. Then an explosion occurred, destroying all the puppets. In his distraction, Sasori was pierced by 2 swords. Granny Chio used the 2 puppets that Sasori had once created. They were those of his parents. It's over, Sasori. You remember them, right? They were your first puppets. When I saw them for the first time, I thought that would put your mind at ease, but I was wrong. I didn't give you the attention you needed. If I had, perhaps things wouldn't have come to this. I'm sorry, Sasori. I'm sorry for everything. I hope you can finally find peace in the afterlife. Sasori, who saw it, commented, Well, that's as far as I got. Sasori saw the Konoha ninja and said, I have a spy in Orochimaru's base. I was going to meet him to get information about all his hidden bases. Now I'm telling you as a reward for beating me. In 10 days, at the Tenchi Bridge at noon, that's the meeting point. Then I looked at Grandma Chi and said, Grandma Chio, I hope we meet again someday, but under different circumstances. Goodbye. With that said, Sasori of the Red Sand died at the hands of his own puppets, those of his father and mother embracing him. Chiyo looked at him and could only feel pity for him. Then she left with the rest to look for Gaara. Naruto commented that he had saved him but that it was too late. When they arrived, Granny Chiyo was listening to him. Then Naruto continued. This is your fault, you made him a Jinchuriki, you mistreated him because of his status, yet he became the Kazekage, he defended his village, and that's how it all ended. Gaara, I hope you can find peace now. Grandma Chiyo commented. No, it's not the end. I've made mistakes in the past, one of them being Sasori, and now our Kazekage. For once, I'll do something good. With this, I'll atone for my sins. Chiyo placed her hands on top of Gaara's body. Then she began to channel blue chakra. I don't have much chakra left. I won't be able to finish. Naruto placed his palm on Chiyo's shoulder. Then use mine, whatever you're doing. Finish it. Chiyo nodded and continued. It's not too late yet. He must live for the future of Tsunade. The future belongs to the new generation. I know that Konoha and Suna will achieve great things in the future. My time has ended a long time ago. Konoha boy, give Gaara a reason to live. Gaara's mental space. A boy stood there. Everyone ignored him. It was Gaara. He was immersed in darkness. However, a hand touched his shoulder. He heard, Gaara, don't give up yet. You have a future ahead of you. A light was emitted from him. The darkness slowly faded. Gaara turned to look and asked, who are you? The blonde-haired boy was Naruto as a child. He replied, it's me, Gaara. You can't leave yet. We must build a future for our villages because we are friends. Gaara looked at him in amazement and said, friend? Are you my friend? Naruto nodded and said, yes, I'm your friend Gaara, and that's never going to change. Databeo dash. The darkness vanished, leaving only light. Naruto managed to bring Gaara back. He knew the outcome of Granny Chiyo's death. It was her wish and he respected it, so he let her rest in peace. Gaara opened his eyes and saw Naruto, as well as ninjas from Suna and Temari who had arrived as reinforcements. Gaara struggled to his feet, confused. Naruto extended his hand to help him up, and Gaara took it, allowing him to stand. Granny Chiyo died knowing she had left the future of the world in good hands. Day after, Team Kakashi was ready to head back to Konoha. Gaara was standing there next to Temari, and Kankuro said a few words to his friend. Naruto, once again I must thank you. You have saved me for the second time. I am indebted to you. Naruto answered him. It's nothing, Gaara. I know you would do the same for me. Gaara extended his hand and Naruto, seeing him do the same, they shook hands, demonstrating that they are best friends and will always support each other. To be continued.